Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NBA Deeper Dive presented by No House Advantage. Well, 8-game Monday slate ahead of us tonight. A lot of stuff to break down, quite a bit of injuries and some interesting games. I'm Dave Loughran at Loughy_D on Twitter, LOUGHY_D. Joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. What's happening, man?
How's it going? Been a while.
Been a week.
Yeah, it feels like, I don't know, it feels like longer.
How'd your Sunday go?
Surprisingly good. I didn't get my lineups entered for the main slate or the early slate. So I just had my dummy train and like $9,000 worth of stuff. And then I like
cash?
4 or 5X made like 20 to 25K.
Dude, that's the greatest or worst feeling in the world when that happened. I told you it happened to me a few weeks ago. Did not cash.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was
so
also
like,
not
I knew I didn't get
$9,000 of entries, but still.
the worst part of it. So like I knew I didn't get my early slate in. Like I just ran out of time. I was like, shit, I didn't get this in. I didn't realize that when I had uploaded my main slate, I had gotten logged out of my DraftKings account because now that I have sports betting, I get logged out like 6 times a day.
It's horrible.
Yeah. So I didn't realize I'd gotten logged out before that went through. I realized I was logged out when I went to upload my early slate, and that's why I didn't have time to do it. But I was like, all right, whatever. Like I didn't play as much money on the early slate. And then I like pull up the Millie Maker and I'm like, oh shit, this is my dummy lineup in here too. Like I have no lineups in.
You always know that when that happens, the sweat is just extra heavy because you only have one thing to focus on and it's all or nothing across the board.
Yeah. And especially with NFL, because like so many guys locked early. Like I had, 3 spots that hadn't locked. I could have just started swapping stuff around if I want to, but like who really cares at that point? Like at least like it's happened to me in NBA, but it's like, 2 guys lock and you just swap everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think depending on how the day is going, you can start making swaps. Like if you get into the 3:30 and you're like, oh my God, this lineup, all 150 of them look really, really good. Let me try and make some changes here. Sure. But
yeah, so like I kind of did that because it was pretty apparent going into the late games that I was going to cash and also that I wasn't going to
win. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, but I went ahead and just like, because I had Josh Jacobs in flex. I went ahead and I had Joe Burrow at quarterback. So I went ahead and just like
swapped some Jamar Chase.
I swapped 1 to Chase, 1 to Higgins, 1 to Kelsey, and then kept 147 with Jacobs.
Just too much time otherwise.
I was just like, I don't care.
Happy to have you guys with us. As always, hit the thumbs up. Can we get over 100? I mean, what are we at? 68 thumbs up right now? Otherwise, you guys, I wouldn't ask you. I wouldn't ask you if it didn't help us. If it didn't help us keep the lights on here, takes a single second of your time and good things happen to you in return. Subscribe to the channel too, if you haven't done so yet. And shout out to all our people in chat right now. Happy that you're all here. All right. So we got 8 games. First question I'll always ask you before we dive into this. Of course, we use the ownership tool, the boom bust tool, all of that stuff to kind of guide us along the way. 3 free days, still entirely free, no strings attached, link in the description. And then Jordan, throw that in chat as well. If you guys are looking to get 3 free days to all of our NBA tools, ownership, boom bust, projections, the lineup generator, lineup builder, everything, whether you're hand building or MMEing, we got you covered from top to bottom. No strings attached. If you don't like it, you can bounce. If you like it, we'd love to have you become part of the community here. But first question is always, is this one of those nights where we just can't avoid going stars and scrubs? Because a lot of times you'll look at, ownership and you'll look at the top options and it's kind of scattered from mid-range to top tier to lower tier. You look at it tonight, like 5 of the top 6 players are all 4,500 or under, 4,300 or cheaper.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends how loosely you want to define the word stars. I don't think that there's any way around some of these value plays that just look really, really good. Then it just comes down to, are you counting like a $9,500 or $9,600 Trae Young as a star, or are you talking about Luka? But I think that there are still some of those strong like upper mid range plays, but I don't really see any way around getting to a lot of this value that is just completely mispriced.
Like I would still count stars and scrubs as 3 9K players and a bunch of cheap players as
right.
Well.
Yeah, I think you can build a lot of lineups like that. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to just be jamming in a nearly 13K Luka.
Yeah, for sure. And as far as high priced options go, none of them are that popular today. I think that among the guys that are north of 10K, you got Embiid at 16, Doncic at 13, Giannis at 13. So we'll get into all of this, and we'll start with the Clippers and the Charlotte Hornets. 216.5 total. Clippers 4-point road favorites here. Of course, another spot where we will get the injury news before the game. That's good. But, once again, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Luke Kennard, all questionable. Norman Powell is out in this one. So, I mean, are you just approaching this one as if these guys are out or if Paul George and Kawhi are out?
I'm just waiting. It's the first game of the night, so doesn't really matter. I think that basically if those guys are in, this team ends up not looking very appealing, especially because we've gotten so much stuff opening up throughout the day where guys are out on other teams. If you have George in, you have Kawhi in, you have Kennard back, this is just essentially a healthy team. You know that the presence of George and Kawhi is going to take opportunities away from everybody else. It can potentially cut into Zubac's playing time because you run the risk that you're going to get the closing lineup with Marcus Morris at the 5. So it kind of just makes everybody look worse. If those guys are out, then by all means, you can get to a $6,600 Zubac's. You can take some shots on Marcus Morris or Reggie Jackson or John Wall if you want to. Terrence Mann is, $5K, so not as appealing as he had been previously. But it's really just going to depend on this injury news there.
Yeah, and that's why we have live before lock. Like I said, you and I we might get this news early. If we don't, you have live before lock coming up, taking you all the way up till tip off. You think our time would be better spent just talking about Charlotte here and then waiting to see if we can come back around to this if we get some news?
Yeah, pretty much. Because also if those guys on the Clippers get ruled out, it's going to make some of these plays look better, but it's still not going to make, I don't think, anybody look like, comparable to like the Memphis value.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of good value on this slate. So it might not, it'll make a difference, but it's not going to be significant enough to the point where you're changing everything. Let's talk about Charlotte then. This is the lowest total game on the slate by a decent amount outside of Memphis and Miami, but that game just has so much value that the total is pretty much irrelevant at this point. When it comes to Charlotte, I think we'd have to start with Terry Rozier here, just given that there's still no LaMelo Ball. There's still no Dennis Smith Jr. Terry Rozier coming in at a high 7K price point, but is this still a spot that you're looking to get to, given that their backcourt is so thinned out still?
Yeah, I think so. And obviously his value relatively has come down just because we've gotten other guards opening up throughout the day. But Rozier's been a fantasy point per minute guy without LaMelo Ball or Gordon Hayward on the floor. And there's also opportunity for that to increase. The usage rate is nearly 30%. He's got an assist percentage above 20%. He hasn't shot very well so far over the sample without LaMelo or Hayward on the floor, and he's still averaging a fantasy point per minute. He should give you 36 plus minutes here. Shooting guard, small forward eligible on DraftKings is nice as well. So I do think that he's one of the mid-range plays that looks very good here.
Can we take a moment to appreciate PJ Washington's last game? And I mean that in all sincerity.
I have no idea what he did.
You want me to tell you?
I'm guessing it's either really good or really bad.
All right, ready? 0 for 13.
Wow.
0 points, 28 DraftKings points. That's remarkable. Impressive. That's incredible. Yeah. He had 3 steals, 3 blocks, 5 assists, and 8 rebounds, 0 points on 0 for 13 shooting.
Yeah, that's wild. I knew he had played 33 minutes. I did not notice he had 0 points.
Yeah, on 0 for 13. It's not like 0 points on 0 for 5. What?
I said, yeah, he was trying.
Yeah, he was trying. It's a really impressive stat line. You think of it's impressively bad to the point where I saw 28 and I couldn't believe it. But besides the point, his shot volume hasn't been terrible. He's playing minutes right now. You're without a top usage guy in LaMelo still. PJ Washington and these guys like Plumlee, your 5K guys, your mid 5K guys, are those just like modest options where you're okay getting to them, but not excited about it?
Yeah, I think so. I think they all looked better this morning when Josh and I did the show. Now it's sort of just like last guy in type stuff. PJ Washington looks a little underpriced at 5,600. He's averaging 33 minutes per game over his last 10. As long as he can avoid foul trouble, he should be out there for, low to mid 30s in minutes. He's averaged about 0.9 DraftKings points per minute without LaMelo and Hayward on the floor. So that's solid. It's just that you have other stuff that's opened up that looks better. Same goes for Mason Plumlee and Kelly Oubre. Both guys look fine. $5,400 price tag for Plumlee. He averages a little over a fantasy point per minute, should give you 29 to 30 minutes here, so he's going to project pretty well, but there's also just a lot of other good center options. Kelly Oubre played 39 minutes last game. I think from a projection standpoint, you can expect around 35, but certainly the opportunity for more, as we saw James Bouknight get kicked out of the rotation last game, and Oubre just played a bunch more. He's also been a fantasy point per minute guy. He's a little bit more expensive at 7K, than Washington or Plumlee, but the opportunity should be there for him as well. And then Nick Richards is one that this morning was pulling like 10% ownership. Now he's down to 3 just because so much better value has opened up. But he's basically the Hornets version of Andre Drummond, where he's playing every minute that Mason Plumlee doesn't. If for some reason Plumlee plays like 25 minutes, you're probably getting a good game from Richards. But on average, he's not going to be that good of an option.
All right, let's talk about Milwaukee and Orlando then. So you have Chris Middleton back in the mix. This is just one of these teams when they're mostly healthy that there's not a ton that you're doing with them. Giannis is 11-9. I'd love to hear where you're going with him just in terms of, we talked about it when we kicked off the show, the fact that there is going to be a lot of significant value on this slate. Is Giannis in one of those spots as a 9.5-point road favorite against a dismal, injury-riddled Orlando team that we're looking to get to a decent amount of? Because it's not going to be that hard, I would imagine. But then outside of that, you're talking Jrue Holiday, Chris Middleton, who just made his return, and then still waiting on Brook Lopez to see if he's going to be active in this one.
Yeah, waiting on Lopez and Grayson Allen as well. Yeah. If Allen's out, I don't think it's going to matter too much. I expect that you'll see Javon Carter move back into the starting lineup and not really be useful. If Lopez is out, I expect you'll get Bobby Portis in there, which would make him look pretty good. He's 6,800 on DraftKings, only 6,100 on FanDuel though. So he would look like a pretty good option if he ends up starting. But if we assume Lopez is in and Allen is in for now, I think Giannis looks good. I mean, it's Giannis. Obviously, he's going to be a good play if you can get there, but still at nearly $12,000 on DraftKings, I wouldn't say he's somebody that I'm building around. We have him getting 13% ownership with an 11% chance of being optimal. You're going to be happy if you get there, but there's still just going to be a lot of lineups where you decide to say like, okay, well, instead of going with 12K Giannis and some 6K guy, I would rather go with 2 9K guys. And, I like that lineup a little bit better, which is completely fine. I think Holiday might actually be my favorite guy to get to here at 7,400. I mentioned him in my tournament plays videos earlier. I don't remember if it was on DraftKings or FanDuel, but he, even with Chris Middleton since the start of last year, Drew's averaged 1.13 DraftKings points per minute in the games he's played with Middleton and Giannis. He's averaged 34 minutes per game. He's still only 7,400. I think that there is some upside for him here in a pretty favorable matchup against the Magic.
It is interesting, though, when you look at Jrue Holiday's price point, and then you look at Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton's been back for what, 1 game?
Yeah.
And Holiday's price point had already been decreasing. Like, I don't know. I think it was only, he was 9K back at this time last month. He's come down to 7,500. Do you think they're 7,400? Do you expect him to hover around this range? I know it's not a question you can pinpoint, but like once Middleton gets worked in and, we're 10 games into it with Giannis, Middleton, and Holiday, do you think he's still sitting around the same price that he was even before Middleton returned?
I think so, yeah, because you had seen his price drop a little bit when he was out because he wasn't playing as much when he came back, and then he's just been underpriced. But like if you just take that 1.1 fantasy points per minute and multiply it by 34, you're talking about like 37 DraftKings points. So I think you kind of just see him live in that mid 7K range for as long as Middleton's in.
Anything else for Milwaukee?
No.
All right, Orlando. This is always fun.
No, it's not.
We're dealing with another scenario where you have no Jalen Suggs, no Chuma Okeke, no Gary Harris, Mo Bamba questionable. Wendell Carter Jr. is going to be.
Just got it.
What's that?
We just got Mo Bamba is out.
Okay, so we must have been right a minute or two ago. Yeah, 2 minutes.
Yeah, no, literally just got it as we started.
Perfect, thank you. So you have no Mo Bamba. Wendell Carter Jr. is still out. Yet at the same time, this team has been so banged up and so injured that you're not on an 8-game slate with so much value everywhere else. You're just not getting that same bang for your buck, so to speak, as you would with teams that have fresh injuries.
Yeah, exactly. And there are a couple of interesting spots here, especially now that we got Bamba being out. I assume that you're going to get Mo Wagner remaining in the starting lineup. He's 4,800, power forward, center eligible. He played 35 minutes 2 games ago, which was a hell of a lot more than I expected. If that happens again, it's very likely that he has a better game than he did in that one. He was relatively disappointing on a per minute basis, but I think you can expect him to play around 28 to 30 minutes. It makes him look reasonable. He would be a lot better play if you didn't have Indiana and if you didn't have Memphis, among other spots on this slate. Also, one spot that I think is really interesting is Markelle Fultz at 5,300. He's played 64 minutes so far this year, just came back a few games ago. He's averaged 0.92 DraftKings points per minute. But since the start of last year, he's like 1.15 to 1.2 fantasy points per minute. Now, last year, clearly he wasn't playing with Paolo Banchero, so maybe those rates do come down. But he played 28, 29 minutes 2 games ago. Knowing he physically can do that, and he could conceivably play 28 to 30 minutes here, I do think he's a little bit underpriced, and he's getting no ownership on DraftKings.
What's he at right now in ownership?
2%.
Yeah,
with a 6% chance of being optimal. So again, it's like part of the issue is that, you're not going to play him over Tyus Jones. You're not going to play him over TJ McConnell. If TJ McConnell ends up in, you're probably not going to play him over Nembhard, especially if McConnell is out. So that's sort of the issue you run into. And then there's guards to pay up for too. So I understand why he's not getting a lot of ownership, but I do think he's at a price point where, if Fultz goes and plays 30 minutes, he could conceivably get you 35, 40 DraftKings points.
No, it's a good point. And he's played, 17, 30, and 19, but the 19 was on the second leg of a back-to-back.
It was also a blowout.
Yeah, lost by 13. I'm assuming that game was even further out of reach than it looks on the final score. All right. That could make things interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, none of the Magic starters played in the fourth quarter of that game.
Okay. So it suggests that, even on the second end of a back-to-back in his third game of the season, he could have played 25, maybe 26 minutes if it was competitive.
Yeah, it seemed that way. He played like 12 and change in the first half. Seemed like he was kind of pacing, mid-20s.
All right. Yeah, Jordan, we got to do the Christmas stream again this year, live stream. Adam will be in.
Yeah, of course.
Do some Zoom drinking games.
We could
do they exist? I bet they do.
We could do like a ranking, like Christmas movies and a bunch of different things, honestly.
We could have some fun.
Oh, yeah.
I remember Matt Kajeski and I were talking about it on the NFL strategy show today. And I remember when we did it last time, we were supposed to talk like the NFL games coming up. And it just devolved into absolute chaos. Adam, do you hate Christmas?
Do I hate Christmas? No.
You seem like the type of guy that hates Christmas.
No, not at all.
You like Christmas? What's your favorite Christmas song?
the immediate thing that popped into my head was Dreidel Dreidel for some reason, which clearly is not a Christmas song. But
do you celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
You're one of the lucky few.
Yeah, and then my birthday is like 10 days after Christmas. So I just, like, when I was in school, you'd just go home for Christmas break and I would just come back with like a ton of new shit, but then not get anything for another year.
Yeah. What's your favorite Christmas movie? You can give me that, right?
Die Hard sounds cliche, but probably Die Hard.
And most people, and I'm supposed to say that's not a Christmas movie,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, we can argue about it the rest of the show.
Jordan, what's your favorite Christmas movie?
Home Alone count? Home Alone?
Yeah.
2? Yeah. Home Alone.
I had an argument with someone about that the other day. Like, if Die Hard counts, Home Alone has to count.
Yeah.
Right?
Home Alone counts.
Yeah. Best adult Christmas movie by a mile is Bad Santa.
Yeah. I would have said Bad Santa if I had
thought of it.
5 seconds to think about it.
But A Christmas Story is still my go-to. I grew up on that. That was the movie right there. They just made a new one with the same kid the same actor that played Ralphie back in the 80s is the same main character in the new one.
So speaking of Home Alone, I somehow, and I haven't seen Home Alone in years, obviously, and you know how bad my movie recall is, but I never put it together that the mom in Schitt's Creek is the mom from Home Alone.
Yeah.
Until I saw the Kevin Hart commercial the other day, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense unless she's in Home Alone.
Dude, my wife, Justine, was like, she looks way better in this commercial than she did in Schitt's Creek. As Moira, she did not look great. She looked way older than I thought, but in Home Alone, I looked it up. She was like 34 years old or something in Home Alone.
Oh, really? I just assumed she was younger.
Maybe she was older than that. I don't know. But yeah, Home Alone takes the cake. First one. Lost in New York is fine, but the first one is still one of the greatest.
I don't remember any of them.
Really? Go back and watch them. They're still good as an adult.
Okay, yeah. I remember liking at least the first one. I don't remember anything after that, but like I don't remember them.
What do you think the spread is in this Boston-Toronto game?
5.
Who's favored?
Where's the game?
Toronto.
Toronto.
You think Toronto's favored by 5 here?
They are favored by 2, it looks like.
Okay. It's 1.5. 1.5 or 2. All right. Were you, I was a little bit surprised to see that, to be completely honest with you. I thought Boston would honestly still be favored on the road. Even without, and I know they're on a back-to-back, no Al Horford and all that. But
yeah, back-to-back, no Horford, Toronto getting healthy again.
Yeah, I know. I get it. Boston's just been dominant, though. Like, they are such a good basketball team. From a DFS perspective, do we go like Jaylen Brown, 8,400? That price separation, we're really starting to see a lot of separation between him and Jason Tatum now.
Yeah, we are. And it makes me keep going back to Jaylen Brown, which hasn't really been that much fun, but I'm going to keep doing it at 8,400. He's playing 35, 36 minutes most nights, still has a usage rate around 30%, shooting guard, small forward eligible. I think it's a good price tag. And, he is one where he's probably a little bit less useful now than he was this morning, just because it's easier now to get to guys, that are $1,000 more expensive than him and look a little bit better. But I still like that price tag. Also think it's easier to get to Tatum now than it was this morning, just because values opened up. Tatum averaging around 1.4 fantasy points per minute this year, should give you 36, 37 minutes tonight at 10.5. Reasonable price tag there. Beyond that, I don't really see much of anything from Boston. If Malcolm Brogdon, who's questionable, were to be ruled out, maybe that opens up some Peyton Pritchard at 3K or, makes Derek White look a little bit better. But the issue you're going to run into is that you still sort of have 2 guard spots locked up, especially if TJ McConnell plays. So it's going to be tough to say, like, oh, yeah, well, I'm just going to play Peyton Pritchard, not play, Tyus Jones or not play McConnell.
So basically, to use your phrase, a lot of these teams we talked about already on another day might look a lot better, but casualty of the slate with a lot of these.
Good this morning when Josh and I talked about them.
Right. Yeah. AB. I saw the DM that from AB this morning or this afternoon talking about Christian Wood, but
with Josh and his,
yeah. And I promise you, fellas, I'm talented when it comes to segues. There's no good way to segue from Home Alone to the Celtics and Raptors. Sometimes you just gotta bite the bullet and dig right in. But yes, from everybody in chat, I always forget to say it. You're absolutely right. Elf is one of the best Christmas movies ever made. I thought about Elf when
you asked also.
Fantastic movie. Great movie. Find your Christmas spirit, boys. All right.
I'm not even like a huge, I don't know. I'm not like a huge Will Ferrell fan. I like Will Ferrell, but I feel like Will Ferrell fans like Will Ferrell a lot more than I do. But like, I still think the movie's really funny.
Yeah, I'm not like a Will Ferrell sycophant, but I think he's done like Step Brothers is one of the best comedies ever.
Step Brothers is great. Like Old School obviously is good.
Oh, it's phenomenal. Like he's done some great stuff. We can agree on that.
He's done a lot of stuff. So it's just like, some of this kind of sucks.
Yeah. I was thinking the other day how almost underrated Jonah Hill is because he never plays the lead role, but every movie so many movies where he's the supporting role are just banger movies like War Dogs, Superbad, Moneyball, Wolf on Wall Street.
Yeah,
you could
everything. I just watched Superbad again yesterday.
Great movie.
Yeah.
Anything
that
else
whole
from
period of movies just so good.
Yeah. Here we go. Anything else from Boston?
No.
All right. So Toronto, like I said, 1.5 point favorites here. And thanks for indulging us, everybody in chat today. We're pacing ourselves nicely. We'll be just fine.
I did like the Santa Claus when I was a kid too.
That's a good one. Ben's favorite movie all time is Jingle All the Way.
That's a good one too. I mean, it is horrible, good, but like it's entertaining.
It's pretty good.
Like I watched that movie a lot.
It's pretty good.
Ben will watch that like in the middle of
in July.
Though. Yeah, like in July or something.
No, he says he watches it like at least a couple times a month. Ben's an odd duck.
Great.
What?
Jim Carrey's Grinch.
I never saw it.
I saw it in theaters, and I actually remember it. Like, loved it.
Toronto, Pascal Siakam. You've been alluding to all these 9K players from the top of the show. Is Siakam one of those 9K players that you think is worthy of getting a decent amount of exposure to today?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's obviously a risky spot. You're going up against a really good Boston team and all of that, but I just think he's a little bit undervalued here, given that he has power forward eligibility in addition to center eligibility. He's 9,500. We haven't seen a game yet since he came back where he does play huge minutes, but he's come pretty close and just had, a bunch of fouls in the first half a couple of games ago. Then you lost some minutes to garbage time last game. I think there's a good chance if this game is competitive, you get at least 36 minutes from him. Obviously, he's been fantastic this year, and it's just not that difficult to find the salary for him. So I do think he looks good. We have him getting 19% ownership on DraftKings, 18% chance of being optimal, so not really going over-owned by much. He just looks like a good play to me.
Okay. What else from Toronto, though?
I'm interested in Barnes and Van Vliet. I don't think that they look as good as Siakam, but you've been getting increased playing time from Scotty Barnes recently. It's likely that you get mid-30s in minutes from him again. And then Fred Van Vliet at only 7,200. 2 games ago, he played 41 minutes, so you have seen the huge minutes return for him since he came back from injury. Earlier this year, he was really struggling when Siakam was in, but he was still averaging a fantasy point per minute on like 17% usage. I think it's likely that as the sample size grows, even if Van Vliet's usage rate doesn't get back to where it was last year with Siakam at around 23%, I think it's likely you end up around 20%. And if he's going to average a little over a fantasy point per minute and play 38 plus minutes, he is still a little bit underpriced here, I think.
Okay. Get to a super chat here. We got, where is it? Teddy, what's up, Teddy? Jaylen Brown over under 25.5 real points. Well, we have him projected for 25.49. So if this is a prop you're looking to take, there's probably better opportunities out there. I wasn't sure if you were looking up where you had Jaylen Brown at. But
no, I was looking because somebody said rest in peace, Danny Masterson.
I saw that too. Are they talking because did he just get sentenced?
I don't know.
I think it was a hung jury, right?
I have no idea. I haven't been following it, but there's nothing on Twitter about him dying.
Maybe someone saw Danny Masterson and hung.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know he's not in that 90s show.
Yeah, that 70s show was one of my shows back in the day.
I never got into it when it was out, but then I've seen probably all of it by now.
But when you were talking, I was looking that up too. I was on Twitter searching it, and I couldn't come up with anything. But yeah, Teddy, we have him at 25.5. Which, by the way, no house advantage. You're doing the same thing over there. You're taking we have all of our projected stats over at and our projected props, our player prop stats, our no house advantage optimal lineup tool, our no house advantage player prop projections, all for free over at Stokastic. Take advantage of that if you're already using no house advantage. If you're not, use the link in the description or the one in chat. You're getting $50 first match deposit bonus. You're just building lineups. That's it. Building lineups with player props. There's just no salary cap. It's the same thing you would do anywhere else. Same information, same research, same stats that you're using. So you don't have to change anything about applying your process to this. You're just doing it a tiny bit differently. And the ones at the top of your lineup get the most points. So the ones you like the most, the ones you're least confident in get the fewest. But more than anything, it's less about the deposit bonus. It's less about all the free tools and more about the fact that there's just stupid overlay every single day, like legit free money. Alex put it to you best. He's like, yesterday, he said, you're going into this, you should, I'm paraphrasing, but when you're getting overlay like this, there's no reason that you shouldn't be making money. It's 220 out of 1,200 right now in the 15K, 5K to first. You think about it. They do the math yourself. All these other contests are going to fill up every other site well before we even get to lock. This is going to overlay like it always does. A lot of times they don't even get to 50%. So take all your knowledge, take everything you hear here on the show, take all of the tools that are free, use them over at No House Advantage. And if you use the link in the description, the one in chat, you're getting the $50 first match deposit bonus as well. So, and if you, there's another format, you play against the house. If you hit all your picks, you 21X your entry. So that's pretty sweet on top of that. NoHouseAdvantage.com. Links in the description and in chat. All right. Talk to me about the Oklahoma City Thunder here against the Atlanta Hawks. We're looking at a nice little 6-point dog on the road, 236.5 total, though, tied for the highest on the entire slate. I guess we can start at the top where we always do with SGA.
This team, I'll start by saying this team scares the shit out of me today. There's only 3 players on the injury report. And so that means that there's a lot of options for them to do really dumb shit that screws us over. But that being said, SGA you can always feel relatively good about. Should be pretty easy to get to him. He's been about a 1.4 to 1.5 fantasy point per minute guy this year. He's averaging around 36 minutes per game. He's the guy that I feel the most confident in getting to. Obviously, he is also pretty expensive, though. Outside of that, Pokusevski, assuming he starts at 4,600, you can't have any confidence in the guy. He played 20 minutes last game. I think he played even less the game before that. He's averaging about 23 to 24 minutes per game as a starter this year, but you get just enough of those games where he does play 28 minutes and smash that at low ownership in tournaments, there's at least some appeal there. Same goes for Jeremiah Robinson Earl, who's been playing more minutes recently as a starter. The thing that concerns me here is Mike Muscala's off the injury report. Jalen Williams, the big, is not in the G League. So they always have bodies they can throw out there to mess things up, but today they have even more than usual. So I'm a little concerned, that maybe Robinson Earl does play a little bit less, but certainly could get 28 minutes and look decent. SGA to me, though, still clearly the guy you want to get to. Pokusevski, Giddey, Robinson Earl, Dort, all fine, but nothing that I'm excited about.
All right. Talk about Atlanta then on the other side of this one. Decent sized home favorites. You're getting a lot going to Capella, to Trae Young. Jalen Johnson at 3,700 is still pulling a decent amount of ownership. As we know, John Collins is out of this one. No DeAndre Hunter. So that opened things up a little bit here. DeJounte Murray, kind of the odd man out, at least as far as popularity goes. Let's kick it off with Trae Young, though. Another one of those mid 9K players that's going to be very easy to fit if you want to today.
Yeah, I think Young looks really, really good at 9,600. And you mentioned the lack of ownership coming into DeJounte Murray. I think a big reason for that is that he's only $200 less than Trae Young. So while DeJounte Murray is good and he's averaging about 37 minutes per game over his last 10, he's averaged 1.16 DraftKings points per minute this year. Trae Young's at 1.32 DraftKings points per minute, averaging about a minute less per game than Murray. He's just going to project better at that price point. So I think Young is the guy you get to first. You certainly can make the case that DeJounte Murray shouldn't be getting, 1/4 to 1/5 the ownership of Trae Young. But outside of, individual lineups where you're looking to just pivot to be contrarian, I think Young's the guy you get to first. We have him projected for like 6-7 points more than DeJounte Murray. That is a pretty big gap for $200.
It is a big gap. Yeah. And what about though Jalen Johnson coming off a 33-minute game? Obviously not going to be a particularly high usage guy. The performance he had last time was a poor man's double-double, 10 and 10 with 4 assists. I mean, look, you'll take that production all day long, but I would imagine he's going to be scrapping and clawing for any production as far as scoring goes.
Yeah, so there's two things that concern me here. For one, Justin Holiday is back for Atlanta. That is just another wing-type body that they could throw out there to potentially, soak up some minutes. And then the other thing is just how not productive Jalen Johnson has been with Trae Young on the floor this year. He's played 119 minutes alongside Young. He has an 11% usage rate, and he's averaged 0.52 DraftKings points per minute. So he's still cheap enough here where I think he should be getting some ownership. Assuming he starts, I do think it's still likely he plays around 30 minutes and probably does produce, better than the 0.5 fantasy points per minute he's produced so far, even if he does kind of struggle alongside Trae Young. So I am kind of concerned by those two things, the fact that Atlanta is a little bit healthier here and that he hasn't done anything with Trae Young. But at 3,700, I still think it's a pretty good value.
Luke Kennard, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, all playing.
Oh, good. So we don't have to worry about the Clippers.
Yep, we will not retrace our steps on that one. One more guy I wanted to ask you about, Clint Capella, 6,400. Actually pulling more ownership than anybody else on Atlanta right now for pretty obvious reasons, but you're going up against, a front court that isn't all that imposing in OKC, hoping to get around, 30, 31 minutes in this spot. Clear big time double upside. Is Clint Capella one of your favorite options at center today?
Yeah, his playing time has been trending up. Over the last 10, he's averaging between 29 and 30 minutes per game. He's been productive this year on a per minute basis, 1.12 DraftKings points per minute, 1.16 FanDuel points per minute. And then Josh mentioned it this morning, Oklahoma City 29th in defensive rebounding this season. You could just very easily see a game where Clint Capella dominates the offensive glass, gets a lot of putbacks, throws up a big double-double here, and he's just not expensive at all. So I think, the ownership is probably a little bit higher than warranted if you just compare it to optimal percentage. But, again, you're never going to make basically never going to make the actual optimal lineup. And Capella does project to be, he has one of the highest chances of being optimal amongst, the mid-range center options today. So I really like getting to Capella in the spot.
Anybody else you want to get to for Atlanta?
Sort of mentioned it with DeJounte Murray earlier. I do think he's a good tournament play just because he is low owned, and you are going to have those games where he just goes off. But again, I think that Trae Young is the priority between the two.
All right, let's move on then. This next game, very interesting. Miami 4.5-point favorites against skeleton crew Memphis team, 218.5 total. I mentioned it earlier. I mean, it's a low total, but at the same time, that's not going to really make a difference when it comes to our intrigue for the Memphis Grizzlies. But first of all, for Miami, do you anticipate Jimmy Butler playing?
I do. He's questionable, so who knows? But he did play like 35 and a half minutes last game, so I'm assuming he's good to go.
So if he's in, then how do we approach a Miami team that now has, a healthy Butler, a healthy Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, the big three all being back in the fold now?
Yeah, so the one thing that's still nice is that the price tags didn't really get out of control when Jimmy Butler was out. So him coming back, you still have reasonable pricing on Tyler Hero at 7,100, pulling 13% ownership. You still have a reasonable 8K price tag on Bam, pulling 11%. Butler's only getting 2%, and so is Lowry, but still makes them look decent. And then also, you are going up against basically Memphis's bench plus Steven Adams and Dillon Brooks. So it's a pretty appealing spot. I think that they're basically secondary plays here. Tyler Hero this season, 1.06 DraftKings points per minute in the games that he's played with all four of the main pieces healthy. Bam's at 1.02, but averaging about 36 minutes per game. Butler and Lowry both don't project quite as well relative to their salaries, but they're also just not getting any ownership. So I think that they, from a contrarian standpoint, look pretty nice. So there's not one guy that I plan on really building around here, but I think Bam and Hero are the easiest to get to, followed by Butler and Lowry. After that, I have pretty much nothing here.
We had a super chat, Adam, from the Claw. Overall best fantasy score of the day, Giannis, Embiid, or Doncic? I mean, I can tell them what our projections say. Do you have any lean, though? I
would lean Luka.
Okay. We have Luka considerably ahead of Giannis and Joel Embiid. We have Luka at 62.6, Embiid at 57.8, and Giannis at 56.5. So, which, by the way, like I said earlier, 3 free days, links in the description. Jordan, put it in chat again. If you want all of our NBA tools and data and content for 3 days without paying a cent, take advantage of. I appreciate the super chat, but if you're not a premium sub, take advantage of that and get that info for free over the next 3 days. Unlike football, you do the 3 free days here and you're getting basketball every single one of those days. All right. Memphis. This is where it gets interesting. So no Jaren Jackson, obviously no Desmond Bane. John Moran is doubtful. Conchar is doubtful. So now we're looking at a team that is, going to pull heavy ownership for Tyus Jones, Brandon Clark, Dillon Brooks. Roddy's 24%. Aldama is 22%. You have 6 guys pulling double-digit ownership. You have 5 of them at 20 plus. Tyus Jones right now, and it makes perfect sense at 4,300 is 60% projected on.
Yeah, and it's just really difficult to get away from. He's back down to 4,300 on DraftKings. He had been up over 5K recently, but just worked out that they finally readjusted the price in time for Morant to sit. I had actually said this morning that if they rested Jaren Jackson, I thought there was a chance Jones could be a sneaky play in tournaments. That was before we figured out that everybody was resting, and he just looks like clearly one of the best plays on the slate. He's averaged about 34 or 35 minutes per game in his 3 starts this season. Going back to last season, he's averaged 31 or 32 minutes per game in his starts. He's averaged a little over a fantasy point per minute in the starts this year. Overall, in 133 minutes without Morant, Bane, or Jackson on the floor this year, he's averaged 0.85 DraftKings points per minute. Just extremely difficult for me to get away from Jones.
It's so tough. How many players do you think will be in the rotation today? You think we'll see 10?
I went 9.
Okay.
I think this rotation is a huge question mark because they don't have wings. So one of 2 things is going to happen. They're going to have to play guys alongside each other a lot that they typically don't, or Vince Williams is going to play a hell of a lot more minutes than people think.
What do you think the starting lineup looks like?
Jones, Roddy, Brooks, Aldama, and Adams.
Yeah. And then, like, how much are you worried about? Usually you talk about mutually exclusive positions where, you wouldn't want to play a starting center with a backup center where they eat into each other's minutes. Do you think we have to concern ourselves with any of that today? Or if we go with a shorter rotation, as you put it, they're just going to have to play guys at spots where they normally wouldn't, alongside guys where they probably wouldn't.
Right. So that's sort of the concern. Like, I don't think I mind playing Adams and Clark together today because I think there's a good chance they play alongside each other. The issue with Memphis and why I think it's such a difficult team to project right now, they basically only have point guards and centers today outside of like their starting lineup and Vince Williams. You have Steven Adams, Brandon Clark, Xavier Tillman, and Kenneth Lofton Jr. Those guys don't play alongside each other, and that's 4 guys. Last year, Brandon Clark played alongside Adams some, and I do think they will end up doing it today just because they don't have bodies. But it's a little concerning, that they really haven't done it this year. Same goes for Tillman, who hasn't played a minute alongside Adams. I don't have Kenneth Lofton projected to play, but who knows? So I think that you can play Adams and Clark together. I think there's a good chance that you get something like, 30 to 32 minutes from Adams and then 22 or something, 22, 24 from Clark, something like that. It's not a guarantee though. Like, they could just play the alternative is that they play Aldama and Roddy more than I'm expecting. Dylan Brooks avoids foul trouble and plays a lot. And then Vince Williams soaks up, mid-20s in minutes. That's the alternative. But I think it's more likely that they do play at least, like a handful of minutes alongside each other.
It does throw a wrench into the works, though, because you're right. In the event that Adams and Clark don't play alongside each other, that means that there are other options at good value that just become significantly better plays based on the additional boost in minutes that they're going to see.
Right. And the other spot is point guard, because Tyus Jones and Kennedy Chandler have basically not played alongside each other this year either. There's like a handful of minutes, but it hasn't been something that they've done much of. Again, I expect that you get 5-6 minutes of it today, just because that's going to make the rotation work a bit better. But that's not a guarantee either. Like, you could just get 32 to 34 minutes from Jones and then only get 14 to 16 from Chandler.
Bottom line, though, is this team looks really, really good today
So I think basically Tyus Jones looks really good. Dylan Brooks looks really good. Santi Aldama looks really good. David Roddy looks fine. Not as good a point per minute guy, but I'm expecting him to start and play a lot. Steven Adams looks normal. Brandon Clark at 3,700, I think, is a good play because, again, I think it's likely that he does at least get some minutes alongside Adams, and he's so cheap that he doesn't need that many minutes to get there. I do just think there's that little bit of a risk factor where it's just like, oh, he really just could play fewer minutes than people think. But I do think he's probably getting into the mid-20s, and at 3,700, that's enough to make him a good value as well.
And I think those minutes are more valuable regardless, just given how everyone else is out for this game.
Right.
Like, you're taking other, players that are going to demand a lot of the ball quite a bit. I'm not saying that Clark's going to come out there and be a high usage player, but just overall, it should help him being on the floor in general. Are you limiting this to 3 per Memphis, or are you going to open it up a little bit and let yourself get 4 players here?
I'm not going to restrict it to 3. I still think there's just going to be a lot of lineups where that's what I end up getting. But because so many of them are cheap, like if you get a $3,100 Roddy, a 4K Aldama, $4,300 Jones, I wouldn't want to set a rule so that I just never have Dylan Brooks there.
Anybody else you want to talk about I know we just spent a lot of time here, but we definitely had to.
So, I'll specifically mention it, just the rates here. Dylan Brooks has played 112 minutes without Morant, Bane, and Jackson this year. 1.3 DraftKings points per minute, 36.5% usage rate. The guy is just going to go out there and chuck constantly. Also has a 17.5% assist percentage, which is nice. David Roddy's at 0.95 DraftKings points per minute. Aldama's at 0.91. Adams, 1.15. Jones, 0.85. Like, all of these guys just look good. Brandon Clark, 0.91.
Philly and Houston. And by the way, appreciate you guys. Almost at 300 likes here. We got almost 2,200 people watching with us. So thank you for the support. For those of you haven't done so yet, you know the drill. Tone for your sins. Help us appease the YouTube overlords. Take a second, hit that thumbs up. See if we could ramp this up north of 400 in the next few minutes if you haven't done so. Philadelphia, though, 8.5-point favorites. This team's been as banged up as any team in the league this year. Joel Embiid recently returned. Tyrese Maxey's out. James Harden, I mean, I have to assume that he's going to play today. He's been practicing. Like I said, he got in the 5-on-5 session yesterday, and he's coming into a game after being out for, what is this, a 1+ month hiatus. So you're looking at Harden, Embiid, Harris. So you get 3 of the 4 back, but with James Harden at 9K, what type of interest against his former team? And I only say that for the sake of, for the sake of context here, not from a narrative perspective against a terrible Houston team, but still a good matchup. What type of interest do you have there, assuming that, maybe he comes back and isn't limited? Because we've seen Doc Rivers has had no problem throwing players back into the fire. Joel Embiid got thrown right back into the mix this year. You and I remember talking about it. We had a Monday show when he came back. It was like, he was not limited whatsoever. And that's a guy that a lot of coaches would when he comes back from injury.
Yeah, the Harden minutes is, to me, it's tricky because, like you said, Rivers has in the past just waited until guys were good to go and then turned them loose. And also with Harden being, the veteran player that he is, I just think there's a better chance that you run into a situation where Doc Rivers lets him, basically decide, dictate how he feels, how many minutes he plays. I have him in for 33. I think that it wouldn't be surprising if he played 30, and it wouldn't be shocking if he played more than 33. I think 32 to 33 makes sense to me for that reason. So he looks fine at 9K. Joel Embiid still looks really good at 11.4, especially with the amount of value we have today. Since the start of last year, 1.63 DraftKings points per minute in the games Embiid has played with Harden, 1.69 in the games that that Harden hasn't been in. So one way or the other, I think he looks really good.
What's Harden's per minute production with Embiid and without Maxey? Do you have that?
No.
Okay. I mean, I'm just curious. I could pull it up. I wasn't sure if you had it in front of you, but
what did you said without?
So Harden with Embiid on without Maxey.
And
obviously that could be a little bit misleading because Maxey has definitely turned it on over the second half of last year, the postseason, and then this year, no doubt about it. But yeah, I think having Maxey off the floor is actually pretty significant in a spot with James Harden coming back. I think it's very significant, actually, just given how when all 3 of them were healthy this year, you saw Tyrese Maxey, as the number 2 usage player on this team.
Yeah, and obviously, yeah, he took on a huge role this year. Wait, you said Harden on, not Embiid on, right?
Well, Harden with Embiid on.
Okay, Harden and
Maxey
Embiid
off.
Okay.
But I got it. So
they've played 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's the problem. I was going back to since the start of last year to see if there was 160 minutes since the start of last season. 26% usage, 40% assist rate, 1.22, sorry, fantasy points per minute. What else do you want to do with Philly then?
Nothing.
Anything.
Yeah, I mean, Harris and Melton, if assuming he starts, look decent, I guess, but I wouldn't expect to get to them. I think it's just Harden and Embiid for me.
Okay. Let's talk about Houston. Şengün, Jalen Green, Kevin Porter. Obviously, Philly getting a little bit healthier here. Nobody particularly popular in this game. Relatively low total, against an above average defense. Is there any interest in just a straight chucker like Jalen Green today, or a stat producer in Kevin Porter that can rack them up across the board?
They're both okay. I like Şengün the most here, but it is obviously a really scary spot for him having to deal with Joel Embiid. Certainly a higher risk than normal for him to get in foul trouble, but at the same time, he's only 6K, should give you around 28 minutes. He's averaged 1.2 fantasy points per minute this year, so if he can avoid foul trouble and if this game does stay relatively close, Şengün projects pretty well. Kevin Porter and Jalen Green both, you know the ceiling that they have. You've seen their assist numbers come up a little bit recently. Both should play around 34 minutes here, maybe a little bit more if the game does go down to the wire. So perfectly fine in tournaments, but I think from a projection standpoint, Şengün's the one that looks the best out of the group.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, Porter's just always somewhat intriguing to me because you can have those games where he's producing across the board. And, low 7K players, you don't typically get that, but he's on a terrible team too. They're big dogs. And his minutes aren't exact. Like recently, you're seeing low 30s in minutes. But is that it for Houston, or do you want to keep, or anything else you want to get to?
Yeah, that's all I have for Houston.
All right, let's keep it going. We got Phoenix, Dallas, Indy, and Golden State. I want to make sure we have enough time for sure for this Indy game with the Halliburton news, and then also waiting on TJ McConnell. Do we have my phone died. I usually use that for the alerts. Let me pull it up on my computer.
We got
do we have any other news?
Brooke Lopez and Grayson Allen are both out.
Okay. Anything you want to hit on there before we close these two games out?
No, we already talked about it. I assume Portis will start in place of Lopez, and I assume Javon Carter will start in place of Allen.
Fair enough. Okay. And by the way, if you guys are betting any of these games, if you've been using our Odd Shopper channel, if you're in our premium Discord, any of that stuff, and you want to bet them, make your first bet at BetMGM and get 2 free months of Stochastic Plus Platinum. I'm not even going to go into detail here because it's the easiest thing ever. It's a $240 value when you use the link, description, or the one in chat. Jordan threw it in there. $240 value. All of our tools for 2 months, entirely free. When you sign up for the first time and deposit $10 and bet anything. Doesn't matter what you bet, and you don't need to win your bet like other sites. It's just $10 when you sign up. You want to bet Phoenix tonight? Talking about them right now. You want to bet? It doesn't matter. Your favorite bet, whatever it is, if you're going to bet it on DraftKings or FanDuel, sure, do that. But go over to BetMGM, make your first bet, anything you want, and get 2 free months of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Plus, like I said, only has to be $10. But if you got a little money, extra money to burn, you're getting up to $1,000 risk-free bet. So if you have 100 you put in, that bet is risk-free. If you put $100 bet down on anything tonight, if it's 1,000, it's $1,000 risk-free bet. You're getting $1,000 back in free bets if you lose. And no matter what, you're getting the 2 free months of Stochastic Plus Platinum. All the tools I mentioned earlier in the show. So there's that picture of Eric. I love it. Check it out. Link in the description. Link in the comments, and we'll see you over there. $10. That's it. This won't be around forever. All right, let's talk about Phoenix and Dallas, and then we'll close it out with Indy Golden State. Toss this one over to the live before lock crew. What do you want to do with the Suns? Chris Paul is still out of this one. Torrey Craig is out as well. Anybody of priority today for Phoenix?
I don't think so. Really slow matchup against Dallas. I think that there are guys you can use as contrarian plays in tournaments. Certainly Devin Booker at 10K. You know the type of upside that he offers. He's pulling the most ownership on the team on DraftKings at 8%. There's not like a huge difference between him and SGA or him and Trae Young in terms of, projection and opportunities. The upside for him is certainly there, but it is a pretty unappealing matchup. Same can be said for DeAndre Ayton, for Cameron Payne. I think that, for example, Clint Capella for $1,100 less is clearly a better play than DeAndre Ayton. Bam Adebayo is a little bit better at 8K as well, but you're getting half the ownership of Adebayo. You're getting 1/4 or 1/3 the ownership of Capella. So within individual lineups, they make sense, but I'm not planning on building around any of them.
All right. How about old Tim Hardaway for the Dallas Mavericks today?
Yeah, he's interesting. He's been starting. He's 4,600, shooting guard, small forward, pulling 17% ownership. The concern for me is that he's a scoring dependent player who is still relatively low usage because he's playing a lot of his minutes now alongside Luka. And we know that Luka just does everything when he's on the floor. So I still think you're going to have games where Hardaway sort of just disappears. He's also not a particularly efficient scorer. Overall this year with Luka on the floor, 0.78 DraftKings points per minute, but he is playing more minutes now, so you do get more opportunities for him. I think that the ownership's a little bit higher than I would like, but I do think that Hardaway offers some value at that price tag.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just looking at his last couple of games, granted, or last few games, played 31, 40, 20, 28 minutes. That was a blowout win against the New York Knicks. His usage in those games is 24%, second highest on the team. So, there's something there, but how long do we continue to see, a mid 20% usage rate for Hardaway is the question.
Yeah, I just don't buy into it. It's 19% overall with Luka on the floor this year. With Luka and Dinwiddie on, it's 20.4% in 107 minutes. I just don't think that you continue to see a mid-20s usage rate from him.
Yeah, and if Tim Hardaway's not scoring, you're not getting there.
Right, exactly.
But he has looked real nice over the past handful of games. What do you want to make of the rest of these guys? I mean, really, when I say the rest of these guys, I should just say, what do you want to do with Luka? Because once you get past Luka, I don't really think there's anything of relative value here.
Yeah, I mean, Luka, clearly you're going to be happy getting there. He looks great. 13% projected ownership on DraftKings at nearly $13,000. Like, hell of a price tag for him, but he's going to give you 37 or 38 minutes most likely. He's averaging 1.6 DraftKings points per minute this year. He looks great. After that, you do have a questionable Christian Wood, which Josh was really excited about this morning. But if he's out, I don't think it does a ton here. I think that, you can get more run for some combination of Dwight Powell and Maxey, but like neither of those guys are particularly interesting DFS options. It makes Spencer Dinwiddie look a little bit better as well because he'll be playing with the second unit without Christian Wood. We did see several really big games from him when Wood was out previously, but I don't think it has that big of an impact. And if Wood is in, I don't think he's that good of an option either, especially on DraftKings where he's only center eligible.
Super chat from the Claw. Did you have anything else for Dallas?
No.
Okay. Mo Wagner and Bobby Portis or Embiid and Tyus Jones.
Jones.
I'm not sure that's even close.
I feel like Portis and Wagner cost the same as Embiid.
That's why. Yeah, you would think so. I don't think there's another T Jones today. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Wagner plus Portis on DraftKings are 11.6 and Embiid's 11.4.
Let's go with Embiid and Tyus Jones there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can spend an extra $4K, I would do it.
It probably means Franz Wagner.
Either way,
it's still
Embiid Jones is going to be the answer basically regardless.
Well, Franz Wagner and Portis is still only like 13,000.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Still a lot cheap.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but like Jones and Embiid are just, I think, two of the best plays on the slate. Wagner and Portis, I think, are a step down.
Yeah. Dylan Brooks or Buddy Hield?
Brooks. Hield looks good, but like that game is really, really appealing. But Dylan Brooks just being able to shoot every time he touches the ball, I'll go there.
Okay. Let's get to this last game. And by the way, 46 likes from 400. We will hit that in the next 2 minutes. I have insane amount of confidence that there's some of you kind-hearted people out there that'll get us over the top. All right. I'm gonna let you roll with this one, just given that we have no Tyrese Halliburton. The only wrinkle in this is that TJ McConnell is questionable for a late game.
Yeah, and it's really frustrating because he is right up there with Tyus Jones as far as best value plays on the slate, in my opinion. He started 11 games over the last few seasons. He's averaged about 35 minutes per game. Indiana is extremely shorthanded on ball handlers right now. They were having James Johnson run point at one point during their last game. He's actually questionable today too. But basically the theme from Indiana beat writers during that game was just, we have nobody that can run the offense. So if McConnell's back, I expect him to play a ton. He's about a fantasy point per minute guy. He's 3,900. He's going to look great. Andrew Nembhard, one way or the other, is going to look good. He's 4,200, 0.9 DraftKings points per minute this year without Halliburton on the floor. So you just have these really cheap price tags on them that look good. Miles Turner sees a bump in usage without Halliburton. Buddy Hield has seen an uptick in production. He does only have a 20% usage rate without Halliburton. I think it's likely that comes up a little bit going forward. So, he's going to look good at 5,800 as well. And then Benedict Mathurin played 32 minutes last game. I expect around 30 minutes here, one way or the other. If McConnell is out, then there's a couple more minutes available potentially. 5,400 for Mathurin, I think, is a very good price tag as well.
Are there any, let me ask you this. Are there any ways that you can, are you doing anything as like contingency plans with this TJ McConnell news pending, given that we're not likely going to get it before lock?
No, I'll just figure it out when it happens. Andrew Nembhard is $300 more on DraftKings, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Assuming they're not both in the same lineup.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we get it sooner rather than later. But yeah, okay. There's not much I can do. Like, it's the only 10 o'clock game.
And then with Golden State, you have no Andrew Wiggins. You have Jordan Poole questionable, but I assume he plays. How much do you want to get to the Warriors tonight?
So Steph clearly is the guy that you're paying for from this team if you can get there. It's a really appealing game. He has averaged about 1.55 fantasy points per minute this year. He looks really good. I think you're going to get I think you'll probably get Kuminga starting in place of Wiggins. You could get DiVincenzo. You could get Lamb. But Kuminga is my assumption. He's 3,200, so that is one guy that you could swap to if you have McConnell and he ends up getting ruled out. If DiVincenzo starts at 3,500, he's going to project as a good value option as well. So I do expect to have a cheap value option on this team, just not sure which one it's going to be. Poole at 6,300, unless he's starting, I'm not really that interested. I think Thompson and Draymond look fine.
Okay. Yeah, I was surprised to see Thompson getting almost 20%, but, good GPP play, that Klay Thompson, because it's either you're getting a very big game or you're getting an insanely underwhelming game, and oftentimes not a ton in between. But he's looked better lately. Anything else for this one? You want to wrap it up?
Malcolm Brogdon was just ruled out for the Celtics. Shouldn't have too much of an impact. You should get more minutes now for Derek White. You're probably getting Peyton Pritchard in the rotation.
Appreciate you guys as always. You got Live Before Lock coming up next. Our Lindquist, Greg Ehrenberg, and stick around during the intermission. Hall of Fame segment, inducting some new members into the Hall of Fame. Some massive wins this past weekend. Basketball, football, betting over on the Odd Shopper Discord. So check it out. Stick around. Live Before Lock right now. Peace. Oh, it's that time of week again. We're inducting you fine friends into the Stokastic Hall of Fame, giving out some free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum. And all you got to do to get it is download the Stokastic profile picture at stokastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Stokastic, HOF. It's Stokastic Hall of Fame on Twitter, and win a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. $120 value when you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Or if you got a nice win, maybe it doesn't qualify and you're just looking for a shout out, maybe we can oblige. Let's get into it. Some great ones heading into this week. First up, Bob Kramatola. We'll call him Bob C here. In the 333K Mega 8, 100K to first, takes it down in the NBA. Woke up to this today. What a way to wake up. Thank you, Stokastic Hall of Fame. Yeah, fantastic way to wake up, Bob. And then Steve Buzzard also woke up to something nice. Woke up aiming for another milli. Unfortunately, came up a bit short. That's Steve's 19th six-figure win this season. Man's working hard behind the scenes. It's Stokastic every day, so you know what tools he's using. And then finally coming up here, I thought we had another waking up, but we don't. Thanks for assisting me in understanding DFS. Love it. Punched a ticket. Jay Lusty punching a ticket on FanDuel. Huge win. I told you we had some big wins this week. And then taking a trip to the Odd Shopper streets over in our premium Discord. Hiro Sandoza. How about this one? This is out of control. I think this is like $200 into over 20,000. I haven't done the math, but it sure looks that way. Saying you can use this for Odd Shopper Hall of Fame, and we will. Congrats, man. Massive win. And Ed Monk, 777. I'm in shock. 2 lineups in the $4. Handmade. No way I thought I'd take second for 7,500. First day using $5 1-week trial. Yeah, we just had that $5 1-week trial. Seems to be working out for you, Ed. Watching you guys for over 5 years, never gave up. You're the best in the industry. Thanks, man, and congratulations. And then how about Jason Pass? I won the Cincy versus Tennessee quarter arcade on Sunday. It's not much, but 300x. And remember, guys, it doesn't matter if you're entering with a quarter, a dime, whatever, a nickel, a dollar. As long as it's top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more and you're not chopping more than 3 ways, you're getting the free month. You're getting up here on the board, just like Jason said. This allows me to level up. So my next contest, my next wins will be even bigger. Thanks for all the great advice. And how about Michael Clem 822? Thank you guys. Best tools, all caps, in the industry. Special thanks to Neil Orfield and Draftaholics for the Thursday night Live Before Lock. Bam. First place, chopping with himself. Talking what, $9,500 there. Huge win on Thursday Night Football. And to wrap this one up, it's Nick Lepre, Notorious Fantasy himself. in the Pat Mayo Experience Listener League, $5,000. Man, what a way to close out week 13. Remember, Stokastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Stokastic Hall of Fame. Use the avatar wherever it is you play. And when you win, get that free month. We'll induct you right here. Welcome to all of you, and welcome back to those of you who have been here before. We'll see you next week for another round.
You want my body, and you think I'm sexy. Come on, baby. Oh, you should have just kept going, Eric.
Oh, Rod Stewart. So good.
Did you just count me down, by the way, Jordan?
Yeah, no, we're live. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, that was a very unenthusiastic countdown.
Yep.
You just, there we go. Whatever. All right, guys. It is time for the Stokastic NBA. I believe it's time for Stokastic NBA Live before lock. Who knows if we're still counting down, if there's music playing or not. Nobody knows. It's unknowable information. While you guys come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are sponsored by No House Advantage today. Eric, how are you doing and how was your weekend?
I'm lovely. Sorry about that. I had to sing some Rod Stewart. I was in the mood. Just, all the things we talk about before these shows start just gets me all hot and bothered, ready to rock.
Yeah.
It was a good day. It was a good day. Everything's great. We had a little meeting chatting about the things, and now we continue on. We talk about the DFS things, and then I recorded video tonight. I talk about more basketball things. Just doing a lot of things.
Yeah, so very proud. My youngest brother got into med school today.
Let's go.
Very excited about it, my whole family. So that was big news. And my other two brothers going out celebrating right now. And I'm going to be hanging out with them a little bit after we finish this show. And of course, suboptimal that we have this much news going on for this slate. So in terms of players that are currently listed as questionable, and we've got some significant ones. Some players that you wouldn't think would be significant in most scenarios, but they are today. James Harden, that's always going to be significant. Jordan Poole, Jimmy Butler, but he's always questionable. Christian Wood is questionable. Here's the one that I think is probably the most important player to the entire slate.
Tyrese
TJ
Halliburton.
McConnell is questionable.
Oh, TJ McConnell.
Is that not who you thought I was going to say?
Well, Tyrese Halliburton.
Well,
he's out. I meant TJ McConnell, by the way. That's what I meant. I thought we were just reacting to the stuff that had happened and then figuring out late swap. It's fine. Go ahead. Continue on.
Yeah. So the reason it's obviously important that TJ McConnell is questionable is because Tyrese Halliburton is out at least for tonight's game. He missed yesterday, dealing with some groin soreness. So what are you going to do with TJ McConnell? Because we didn't really get a good idea of what his role would have been last night without Halliburton, because McConnell also sat yesterday, health and safety protocols. What do you think McConnell's role, actually a non-COVID illness, but it could be a COVID illness, who's to say? But what would you be doing with TJ McConnell if he plays, and do you think he starts?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways to handle this. One, I do think he starts coming off of yesterday. Nembhard's been playing really, really well, but I think you can put him in there. You can take Nesmith, put him on the bench. Nesmith's just not a very good basketball player. We've seen that. Enough sample size there hanging out. And then TJ McConnell, you can do it one of two ways. You can build lineups with 49,700, give yourself $300 to get to Nembhard, or you can do what I'm doing and you're just building everything with Nembhard, and I'll try to turn some stuff into TJ McConnell. If that news breaks after 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, 5:30 p.m. out here on the West Coast, you're kind of in this iffy spot because you lose the Phoenix-Dallas game. Not that there's anything super appealing there, but the way some of the salaries have worked out, Tim Hardaway Jr. is a guy I might end up playing a lot more than I anticipated on this kind of a slate, simply because, one, I get an extra salary, an extra piece of being able to mix around the salaries and have it end up working out. But two, I just think that he's a decent enough play that isn't apocalyptic compared to some of the Memphis chalk. So I'll be able to have half an hour to see how that Memphis game starts off. That's probably not enough considering we get guys like Aldama, who's at 4K. We get guys like, Tyus Jones is just a lock for this slate, so I'm playing 100% of him. Dylan Brooks, 6,200. I'm excited to get your feedback on that one, but there's enough pieces on the bottom end where I think Tim Hardaway Jr. isn't the absolute worst guy to get locked into playing with a couple lineups. So I think he gives me some extra salary flexibility where I can land onto more onto more Indianapolis pieces in that Golden State game if you get TJ McConnell ruled out.
Yeah, and if TJ McConnell plays, he's pretty clearly the best play on the slate to me.
Yeah, he's 100%. Him and Tyus Jones are like lock buttons.
Yeah, but the reason that I would view McConnell as being a little bit stronger, just because people aren't going to be on there at quite the same way.
True.
So that's the reason I really find him to be so pertinent to this slate. By the way, I've just left him in for now. I think that's the easiest way to go about doing it, with him being in. He pops up in nearly everything for me in the lineups I've built. Now, as for the other guys, because we've got a bunch of Grizzlies value, the Grizzlies have ruled out basically all of the players. Then it goes to show also maybe a little bit what they think of Dillon Brooks. The fact they give everybody the night off, but not Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks has to go out there and play. Jaren Jackson Jr. out, John Morant out, John Contra out, Zaire Williams out, Jake LaRivia out, and then of course Desmond Bane remains out. With that being the case, I agree with what you said before. Tyus Jones, great play. Dillon Brooks. Here's why I don't like Dillon Brooks. By the way, I actually think Dillon Brooks is really good. I think he's really talented. Here's the issue with him. He's just a complete idiot when it comes to shot selection.
There we go.
Because he's a really good defensive player.
Incredible.
If he just had better shot selection and wasn't somebody who insisted on being like a 27, 28% usage guy, he'd be incredibly valuable. As it is right now, he's just somebody who's, like slightly positive, probably like a 70th percentile player or something like that. But he could be really super valuable if he just dialed back his shot selection and didn't insist on having the highest usage ever. But for a spot like this, where there are so many other players on the team that are out, it's kind of ideal for somebody like Dillon Brooks, who's just going to hoist up a shit ton of shots. So I think he's also a very, very strong option.
Yeah. He's got a 25% usage on the season, which is actually lower by a landslide than last year. You're starting to get Jaren Jackson Jr. acclimated to this offense, but without either John Morant or him, or in this case also Desmond Bane, not on the floor, it's going to be Dillon Brooks season, which is never a good season. He's a 97th percentile defender on dunks and threes. He's got a 12th percentile true shooting percentage at 50%. He's got a 15 percentile effective field goal percentage of 47%. He's terrible at finishing at the rim. He's terrible from three, below 50%, below 50th percentile in that regard. He doesn't really create opportunities for anybody on his team. He's a black hole. So if there's a volatile piece of chalk today, I got to say, I think Dillon Brooks still falls in that category, because going 7 for 30 is a legit likely outcome for something like this.
Yeah. You know what? I don't know if you noticed this, but a new Discord update, and they've changed where things are. So I was just looking down for some of the questions we've gotten so far, and they're in a different spot. So we were just talking about Memphis, we were just talking about Indiana, and we got a question from Lucky in our Discord channel. One of the perks of being a Stokastic Plus Platinum member, by the way, 3-day free trial. If anybody hasn't signed up before, 3 days for free just to check out all the stuff we have behind the paywall. Any groups for Memphis and Indiana? I'm not making any groups, but I'm playing a ton of these guys, right? So right now, the players I'm getting the most exposure to are Tyus Jones, Dillon Brooks, TJ McConnell, Andrew Nembhard. Those are my 4 most exposed players at the moment. Yeah,
there's nobody above 6,200 on the team. It's Dillon Brooks, Steven Adams, and then everybody else is sub 4,500. It's impossible to build lineups today and not have 3 Memphis Grizzlies in every single one. Let me just say that again, in case you weren't listening. It is impossible to build lineups on this slate without 3 Memphis Grizzlies. You heard me? I will not be doing anything other than that. Even if you just went and crunched, you're all set. Like, it would take something very drastic, like Golden State 2 years ago, when they were putting up like 85, 90-point games when they only had like 7, 8 active bodies. And still somehow on some of those slates, we were still playing like 3 Golden State Warriors. Like, it is unbelievable to imagine a scenario where you do not have 3 Memphis Grizzlies in every single lineup. It's not impassable. You get out of here, Josh.
I don't even know what it is that you're doing right now.
I'm just removing people from chat forever.
Gotcha. Well, we did get, by the way, did you get Sean V back in yet?
No. Sean V is gone forever.
No, he's not. He's coming back. We can't.
It's possible. Yeah, of course you can build them without 3, but you're not going to like the results. Thank you. That my buddy coming in, saving the day. He's just like, that's what you're trying to say. I know what you're trying to say. You can do it, but best of luck winning money with just one or two Grizzlies in your lineup tonight.
Yeah, it's certainly not impossible to build lineups that don't have multiple Grizzlies players. But I do think that the Grizzlies and the Pacers are the two best sources of value on the slate. We got a couple more questions that came in, but first I wanted to ask you, if TJ McConnell doesn't play, who is an additional value play that could open up from the Pacers other than Andrew Nembhard?
Everybody would be pretty appealing. I do like Miles Turner for tournaments, 7,300. I already bet the over on his 26.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. He makes a lot of sense. We saw the upside from Buddy Hield. Even when you don't have somebody out creating like Tyrese Halliburton, that's still usage to come off the map. And the dude played 38 minutes last night against Portland. I was very, very heavy on him. That worked out nicely. I'm not a Buddy Hield stan by any means, but there's no doubt the guy can get a bucket. And then I think Benedict Mathurin had about as big of a floor game as you could possibly ask for, but played 32 minutes against Portland, shot it abysmally, 5 for 15, didn't really add anything in way of counting stats. But again, rookie, give him some extra run. He would stand out to me. The one guy that I liked on yesterday's slate that I do not like on today's slate is Aaron Nesmith. Part of that is I built a lot of lineups with TJ McConnell and Andrew Nembhard already in them, and I had to pivot off of McConnell. So it just became Aaron Nesmith, and he was serviceable there, but I don't think there's a minute ceiling. We saw only 24 minutes in that start. I don't think it was something where the blowout really affected. It was actually not even really a blowout. The game just started to get out of hand towards the last couple minutes. Buddy Hield kept it close all the way until about the 5-6 minute mark of yesterday's game. That is somebody that I wouldn't like, but legitimately everybody else on this team, Jalen Smith, I could even make a case for to a certain extent as a high upside option, only played 17 minutes. We've seen when Miles Turner gets it going that they basically don't play the two on the floor all that much together. So pretty much every other Pacer is appealing. The problem is Memphis is just nuclear appealing. So I like getting to some of these pieces for tournaments. I think Nembhard and McConnell are two guys that you just want to preload some lineups with regardless. In your case, TJ McConnell, all in, don't completely hate it. Just find a way to have $300 to make sure you can get to Nembhard, or if you have both of them already, have a contingency place to plan, because Aaron Nesmith is like a last resort.
Got some super chats here. Devin Davis, 2v2 question. What is a higher ceiling when factoring in their matchup? Curry and Jaylen Brown, or Trae Young and Pascal Siakam? I mean, if we're just talking about ceiling, then the Curry and Jaylen Brown combination, because Curry's ceiling is just astronomical this year. So if we're just talking ceiling, Curry and Jaylen Brown.
Yep, that's good.
Somebody else had said that they left a super chat. The Claw. I don't see it anywhere. Jordan, what was this from last show? He said he had a super chat that didn't get answered.
No idea.
But I don't see it anywhere. We could just blame it on Laffy. But
it seems fair.
Was there a super chat, Jordan, that got missed last show? Okay, it's coming in on Slack.
Wow, it was passive aggressive.
Coming in on Slack.
Very passive aggressive by Jordan Klein.
All right, I've got a DM from Ben.
For somebody to be
Raza.
the passive aggressive one on a show with me, that takes a lot. Jordan Klein, well done, bud. Well done. Sip from your little sippy mug.
From the Claw. By the way, I like how I pull it up, and it's Giannis spelled Gannis, but I know you mean Giannis. Overall, best fantasy score of the day: Giannis, Embiid, or Jokic. So, but one thing that we have to add here is that we don't know if James Harden is going to play or not. That's something that's going to make certainly an impact in terms of how Embiid is being projected. But the answer is Luka for me, kind of regardless. Luka is going to be the guy who's projected best for me if we're considering just raw fantasy points.
Yeah, I think that this is a very. I'm going to be jamming Luka tonight. Like I don't see any reason that with all the value that we have on tonight's slate, and sure, there is a lot of it here at guard too, and I'll get to some Giannis, but Giannis at 11-9, not as appealing with Chris Middleton back in the fray. There's still a massive ceiling there, but I just think the raw points that I can lock in with a guy like Luka on tonight's slate, him and Devin Booker have their little thing going. It's the guy's going to just nuke this Phoenix team. I'm very, very excited for it. So I'm firing away on Luka, playing a lot of TJ McConnell and Tyus Jones in the other two spots, and then building around them with other Memphis value. It's a pretty straightforward slate for me in that regard.
So, you know what's funny? I have Luka projected for the most fantasy points of those three. I get to him the least of those three. The reason is because there's so much value in the backcourt compared to the front court. Tyus Jones, Dylan Brooks, TJ McConnell, Andrew Nembhard, I mentioned before, those are my four most rostered players. As a result, I end up paying up for Embiid and Giannis more. Because I'm playing more value in the backcourt, guys.
So this afternoon, I was kind of thinking the same thing you were, and then I started building out my lineups. And Nembhard, you can play at shooting guard. Tyus Jones and McConnell, that's a point guard and guard spot. I'm basically freewheeling another guard spot, and that becomes Luka Doncic. Like for me, it's just a spot where I get because of the guard spot. He's not going to be as high owned as he should be in this kind of a spot. Him against Phoenix, I never build with the idea of like, oh, it's facing this team, this situation. Dude absolutely nukes the Phoenix Suns in pretty much every capacity. He's a 1.7 fantasy point per minute guy. I'm going to value him as a better fantasy point per minute rate than Giannis even this season, considering Chris Middleton's now back for Milwaukee. For me, it just becomes that. I get it. Giannis and Embiid, I want to get to a lot of both of them too. I don't think you should have an issue being able to spend up for two studs in pretty much every single lineup because of the value. But I was thinking the same thing you were earlier, and it still didn't matter just because of how big of a lock McConnell, Nembhard, and Tyus Jones are for me.
Yeah, and we do also have some questions related to some of the pay up options that I just talked about. Giannis and Embiid. Jets World asked us, if you're playing a single entry in a single lineup in a high dollar GPP, would we prefer Giannis or Embiid as a potential placeholder here? So Giannis, his game starts earlier. So with the Embiid news, we're not going to know until later whether James Harden is out or not. And I could be wrong, right? I'm just assuming we're not going to go until after the Bucks game locks. I do prefer Embiid though. Number one, also, Giannis has just not been quite the same level of fantasy player this year as in previous years. Chris Middleton also recently came back. Even if Harden plays, I don't expect him to play a full allotment of minutes. So I do prefer Embiid to Giannis. How about you if you were just picking one of them?
If I had to pick one of who?
Embiid or Giannis?
I would pick Embiid.
Update just now, Morant, because I saw somebody also ask this about in chat. Morant, Conchar, Zaire Williams, Jake LaRavia, they remain doubtful. Not expected to play these guys.
Yeah, even though I just said that, I want you to know I'm overweight to both of them.
Yeah, so am I. Okay. But he asked us for one. I think
Embiid.
I do prefer Embiid. We got a couple super chats that just came in actually. One is from Addy Balagon. He wants to know, what is the minimum number of Memphis players on a FanDuel GPP and cash? All right. So for FanDuel purposes, who are
you're playing four in cash?
And which four? Let's try to figure out which four would we be playing in a FanDuel cash game. Tyus Jones.
Done.
Dylan Brooks.
Done.
The other Memphis players, I guess Brandon
Santi
Clark
Aldama.
and Santi Aldama.
Yep. Those are
those four.
Those are the four you're playing. And I don't think there's a scenario where that would change before lock.
Yeah, I can totally get on board with that. I think those are four of the best value plays overall on the slate. DraftKings as well, by the way. But for FanDuel, when he's asking us about which four to play in cash games, we didn't ask which four. I'm just kind of expanding his question to that answer. I would say play Aldama, Clark, Jones, and Brooks. Play all of them in cash today on FanDuel.
Yep.
And then he wants to know what's the minimum number of Memphis players in a FanDuel GPP. I would say 2 for FanDuel.
2 sounds good.
I don't think you have to play 3 on FanDuel by any means.
No.
Jorge Jacomi wants to know which game/players would you try to stay away as which game/players would you try to stay away as much as you can? Okay. Away as much as you can or line up not a lot of players. Why is Eric talking as if he was mad at Greg?
I'm not mad at Greg. I wasn't mad at Greg at all.
I think Eric is mad at like 75% of the people in chat.
Yeah, no, they've just been progressively dumber and fucking idiots of late. So it is what it is.
Somebody's been hanging out with Josh and Adam lately.
No, I'm just saying it's like I start to see what they see a little bit more. 95% of you guys are fantastic. There's just that 5%. And then they go on Twitter and say stupid stuff like when who was it that ended up getting hurt? Rudy Gobert ends up getting ejected, is what it was. He gets ejected from that game, and everybody comes at me when I say that, oh, well, this ruined the slate, I'm going to go do something. And they're like, Gobert was a fish play. And I'm like, I didn't even play Gobert, but do you not realize that you need a 5% Nas Reed now? And then he progresses to put up 50 fantasy points, and it's like, whatever.
Listen, I'm a man of the chat. I'm one of the donks as well. I'm also one of the idiots that trolls people on Twitter. These are my folks. Sean V. These are my people.
Sean V's gone. Sean V is no longer among us.
No. I need to figure out how to. I don't know how to get people back in, but I'm going to bring Sean V back. I don't know how to do it. I know Sean.
Poor Eric. Give him a hug. I don't need a hug. I don't need a hug. I don't need anything. I just need you guys to know that when you're stupid, I'm going to call you out for being stupid, or I'm just going to block you on Twitter because I don't even have this mute button thing anymore. I want you to know that you're a piece. Like, I want you to know that you're a joke and you deserve to be shamed.
All right, Jordan, we're keeping no more Eric shows with Josh and Adam. The rubbing off. No more of this. No more of this. I'm
also having coffee at like 3:26 because I just got done watching my pup the whole time. It was great. Eric thinks I'm a troll, but I'm a fan. Love this duo. Oh, thanks, Guitar Man. See, everybody loves it. Everybody loves it.
By the way, to answer the first part of Jorge's question, he wants to know which games players would we try to stay away from as much as we can, or line up not a lot of players. So which spots are, well, one thing that's kind of interesting about this slate is
chat's like flying now.
The teams that I'm getting exposure to, it's kind of concentrated, right? I'm getting to a lot of the Grizzlies for value. I'm getting to a lot of the Pacers for value. And then it's just Embiid, Giannis is spend up options. Trae Young is a spend up option. Pascal Siakam is a spend up option. So it's really not that I'm avoiding teams intentionally. There's just a lot of them that are not good plays because there's individual teams that are such good points per dollar. But if I had to point out the worst value team on the entire slate, it's the Clippers.
The worst team to get to. Yeah, because Kawhi and Paul George, they just muck it all up. They're on minutes limits. Everything's a disaster. I don't have a single Clipper in a lineup tonight.
David Roddy likely to start in place of John Conchar, assuming Conchar is ruled out. David
it's kind of a bummer. He was one of my highest owned guys at 3,100. I've already talked about how I'm getting just stars and scrubs. Well, David Roddy was part of it. He was my third highest owned behind Tyus Jones and Brandon Clark.
Let me look up David Roddy. I don't know. Believe it or not, I don't know his points per minute production off the top of my head. David Roddy.
Believe it or not.
Believe it or not. Oh my God, it's
you
terrible.
Don't sit around. Oh, I know he's terrible, but he's 3,100 and he's going to play a boatload of minutes. And now he's apparently going to be starting. So at 0.6 fantasy points per minute on the season, it's almost irrelevant when you put him in for 28 minutes. And there's none of the main contributors on the floor alongside him.
There's a lot of other value plays. I'm not going to say he's unplayable, but there's a lot of other value plays I'm going to get ahead of him.
I didn't say that isn't the case because I have 5 value pieces that are higher than him, but he is third in the pecking order of Memphis. I think you guys can figure out that Indiana has the other pieces.
The next super chat we got here from Jorge is Eric needs the chat to get us to 1K likes as soon as you hear this super chat, and then he will be happy and stop talking French.
Oh, because I said one swear word. Here's the thing. Why do I get called out for saying the one swear word? It's like I said one swear word one time, Jordan Klein.
This is a family show, to be fair.
What? Oh, you're dipping. That's what's going on. I didn't know what was going on with Jordan. Jordan Klein. He wasn't reacting the way that I was anticipating him to. And then he's doing this.
Yeah. Well, he's very cool, Jordan Klein. But this is a family show. We try
to go grab a Zen and live my life is what I'm gonna do.
We try to. Yeah. Did you switch bodies with Tyler? Is that what happened?
You understand? Zen is about as LA as it gets. It's not. You are not hard if you're just dropping Zins, living your life.
Yeah, this is very much a PG-13 show. We don't curse around.
Okay, well, I get one F word then. That's a PG-13 show.
Yeah, no, this is for the kids. Malcolm Revamp, Eric and Greg. I'm struggling bad. Who to play on DK Cash? All right, so before we got a question. Who are the must plays? At least as far as the Grizzlies went for FanDuel Cash. For DK Cash, here's who you're playing. Tyus Jones, you're playing Dylan Brooks, you're playing Andrew Nembhard, you're playing Brandon Clark, you're playing TJ McConnell, you're playing Santi Aldama, and then you're using your last couple spots to spend up for whoever it is your favorite spend up options.
Yes.
I really do think it's that simple. And then if McConnell ends up getting ruled out, you're just pivoting to somewhere else.
Yes.
Easy game today.
Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy.
We got some more questions in the Discord chat. But first, let's tell the people, Eric, some ways that they could just easily make some money and find some value in the betting streets. That is with our deal that we have with BetMGM. So the no-brainer deal, it's not here anymore, but don't worry, guys, because if you sign up at BetMGM right now, you're going to get 2 free months of a Stokastic Plus Platinum membership. All you have to do is click on the link below or click on the link that Jordan's about to throw into the YouTube chat. But, oh wait, there's more. You're also going to get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. So if there's something today that you think cannot lose, good news, because you can bet up to $1,000 on it. Even if it does happen to lose, you're going to get refunded in risk-free bets of up to $1,000. Now, you don't have to bet $1,000. A minimum bet and deposit of $10 will still get you the 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum. But when you sign up, just make sure to click our link so you get credit with the risk-free bet and the 2 free months of our site.
Who picked that picture of me? Who picked the picture of me?
Which picture? Oh, because you just look good in it. Yeah, you just look good in it. Do it again.
Oh, I'm done. I'm not a monkey who just dances.
What was the context you took that picture in?
I don't know. I think we were joyous and happy in Chicago, living our lives before I got beat down by Jake Ari playing one-on-one, I'm sure. I think
that picture, actually, if I'm not mistaken, was that not when you walked into the locker room and Jake was getting undressed? And then they were like, oh, and they took a picture of you? It was, yeah, that's what the reaction was, with the mouth wide open.
Guys are just absolute idiots. Eric was on shrooms. He was feeling zippy. Spirit fingers. Do the Ricky Bobby stop. Rainbow wave pick. You guys are just out of your minds. You guys are out of your minds. All of you. Keep drinking coffee, Eric. I am. It's the only way I can deal with all y'all.
A little jazzed up. Eric Traub. I legitimately feel
Put
like
it back
Eric
on the screen, Jordan. Stop it.
I think you look good in that picture.
Thanks, Greg.
Super chat from Eric Traub. I legitimately feel like Eric looks like Joaquin Phoenix. I'm now concerned that people in the chat are going to slowly turn into a full Joker over time, and he'll take chat out on the good people. So one thing about this is I don't really know what Joaquin Phoenix looks like because he looks different in every single movie he plays. I don't know what he looks like as a human being, but is the movie character that Eric is most similar to Joaquin Phoenix's version of the Joker? Yes.
What? Such a bad take. Also, there's a fun story about that. I'll tell you after the show. I got to go to that premiere.
My wife killed all those people.
Wow. Very, very aggressive. This is a family show, Greg.
By the way, James Harden will play today.
Saw that.
So James Harden in. What does this mean for Joel Embiid, and what does it mean for other players on the Sixers?
So I still think you can play some Joel Embiid. What I said about do I prefer him or Giannis, it might just kind of be going to other guys to it's difficult because they're the power forward center combos that you kind of want to get to that aren't those guards, as we talked about before. I'm still very heavy and on the Luka train for this slate. So he's if I'm paying up for one guy, I think it's probably even more pronounced now as I go through, but I mean, he's going to go out and he's going to try to get his swerve on in Houston like it's 2017, isn't he?
Well, by the way, we also found out Harden minutes limit, which I think was to be expected. I don't think he's going to play enough to be fantasy relevant himself, but he's also, Harden and Embiid, they played together towards the tail end of last year, and Embiid destroyed, right? Embiid was the best fantasy producer in the league for a period of time last year. So I'm not really too concerned. Obviously, it would have been a little bit better for Embiid if Harden was out, but with him playing limited minutes, I don't think this means we have to hit the eject button on Embiid.
No, I didn't say that in any way.
No, I'm just saying
there's no way I'm going to be. Yeah. I also don't really like looking at the early sample size of the two of them this year because I think you and I can both agree that we watch basketball enough. Joel Embiid was out of shape. Like he was out of shape.
Yes.
In the first 2 weeks of the season. And so I've kind of removed the entire sample size, at least in my, I'm running some stuff with the two of them on the floor together here. I don't even want to look at anything from this year because Joel Embiid legitimately just like showed up off the bus and like just said, all right, let's play basketball, play myself into shape. And James Harden legitimately looked good starting off the season, was more of the alpha in the offense. And then it started to turn about the 2-week, 3-week period, and then they were both out forever.
And something else too, the exact same thing happened last year with Joel Embiid. The start of the year last year, he was horrific to open up the season. And I remember constantly people getting upset about playing Joel Embiid and then not going well. And then also, if you remember, so this year he missed time. I forget what he missed time with this year, but last year he missed time with COVID and he was out for a really long time. And then he came back and was just a monster. So if you look at the start of the year for Embiid last season, 41, 46, 51, 27, 29, 42, 35 fantasy points. He finally has a good game, puts up 57 points. And then he got sick with COVID. He missed 3 weeks. And then he came back and just went on his tear and ended up being the runner-up MVP. So it was a slow start to the season for him last year. A lot of the same this year, but I'm pretty sure that Embiid's going to crush and be some sort of MVP candidate moving forward. So I still like getting to Embiid today, and I don't have like a massive lean towards a favorite pay-up option. Is there one guy you think is far above the other pay-up options on the slate?
Yeah, Luka. It's still Luka. And again, I get the concern about the guard spot, but I'm just going to repeat the 3 guards that I want to get to the most, Nembhard, McConnell, and Tyus Jones. They all fit together in the 3 spots, and I have a utility open. I am adjusting. I have Luka 4.5 points projected higher than that of Giannis. I have him 5.5 higher than Joel Embiid. And again, that's the one game that isn't expected to be wonky too on the slate. Dallas is a 3-point favorite at home. Giannis, it's a 9-point spread, moving up to 10. The Sixers, I think that'll probably be moving from 8 up around 9 here still. I think Luka is the safest spend up option, and I get it. He's more expensive as well, but how much do we really need the salary? I want the raw points. I want to get to Luka.
All right, we got some more questions in the Discord to answer. This one from T. Lee. Favorite 5 or so single entry plays or most owned, whichever you prefer. Eric, let's just go through our most rostered players right now. And I think at least for now, there's probably no news we're going to get in the next 23 minutes that's going to change my lineups, right? I think what we have right now is probably what we're working with heading into lock. The players that are still questionable, Jordan Poole, Jimmy Butler, Christian Wood, and TJ McConnell. I don't think any of that news is going to be imminent. So my lineups, what they are right now, is probably what they're going to be heading into lock. And then whatever happens with news afterwards, I will be making some swaps. So let's go through our most rostered players at positions right now. So for me at point guard, that is Tyus Jones and TJ McConnell right now. How about for yourself?
Tyus Jones, TJ McConnell, and Luka Doncic. I'll give the bonus.
Shooting guard is Dylan Brooks and Andrew Nembhard for me.
Andrew Nembhard and Dylan Brooks.
And then at small forward, Dylan Brooks, and then just really spread out some Jaylen Brown, some Buddy Hield, some Jason Tatum. There's outside of Dylan Brooks, there's not another player that I have in more than 15% of lineups.
David Roddy, I do.
Okay. Power forward for me is Santi Aldama, Pascal Siakam, Brandon Clark, and Giannis.
Brandon Clark, Santi Aldama, and then Giannis for me.
And then center, Siakam, Clark, Giannis as well, and then Joel Embiid.
Yeah, Giannis, Embiid, and then I gotta say, because again, now the Giannis Embiid thing switched for me. I updated that, so I have the ability to just say now I do prefer Giannis just ever so slightly over Embiid. I want to get to more Bam Adebayo. I think that's one guy that we kind of want to make sure that we get to a little bit more of. One, he's attached to a lot of the Memphis pieces that we like. And 2, we still don't have official word on Jimmy Butler yet. So maybe you get that news to break that way. And if it comes out later than you would expect, I want Bam Adebayo. Now that tag is starting to come down again, he's at 8K. He was 8,400 before Jimmy Butler returned. I think that's a piece that you really want to get to against an interior that maybe it is going to be more Steven Adams here, but Bam Adebayo, he can create, he can do a lot of really good things. He's been around a 1.15 DraftKings points per minute guy all season long. I think he's a really good tournament option to attach to Memphis.
Yeah, so for me, the reason I just have Jimmy Butler in right now, and then I could switch afterwards. It's going to be really easy to make the change. The Pacers are the last team that plays of the day. And then we have the Memphis game, obviously playing against Miami, which you said before, a reason to get to Bam, which I totally agree with. But since we already have so much exposure
Totally.
to Memphis, it's just going to be easy to make switches and get to more Bam if Butler's rolled out. So
Totally.
I'm not doing anything specifically for that.
Yeah, for me, I just kind of have it preloaded that way a little bit too, because I do want to play Jimmy Butler. I think he does play because they play Detroit tomorrow on a back-to-back. This is the front end of it. Do they really want to play Jimmy Butler on an island spot for a back-to-back? Like, I think you go out and win this game now. I think it's more pertinent. They're going to be close to double-digit favorites when that line drops tomorrow. So I am pretty firm that Jimmy Butler plays tonight and doesn't play tomorrow. But even still, there's that chance that you could get to more Bam. That would make sense. And now also the tags come down 400 to kind of account for what we're getting in Jimmy Butler showing up again.
Yeah, and Jimmy, like, I mean, who the hell knows what happens to Jimmy Butler? I make fun of him all the time for how soft he is. Everybody knows that if I was to fight him in a fight, I would clearly win. But the other thing, too, with Jimmy Butler is he's also just a maniac. He tweets pictures of himself like, hey, 2 a.m., time to go to the gym. No, Jimmy, if you sleep, it's going to be better for your long-term health. You don't need to be I actually think that's one of the reasons he gets hurt is because he's so insistent on being the guy who works harder than everybody else and gets to the gym first. He literally is posting pictures on social media, Twitter, Instagram, about him going to the gym at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And it's the dumbest
He's the
thing.
Eric Lindquist of the NBA. He works the hardest, and then he's also the softest. So he's like the Charmin of the NBA.
Do you get hurt a lot?
Just all the time. No, I never get hurt.
Oh, okay.
Well, unless I get hit by a car, which happened.
Oh, that is true. You did
7 years
break your
ago.
hip getting hit by a car.
Yeah, that was fun. Don't do that.
Which person in chat was driving the car?
Probably the guy who said that I'm a failed actor and golfer, because that probably happened at that exact period in time. So appreciate you. Let me just tell you, I'm coming. I'm coming. I'm still moving up in the world. I'm doing great.
I want you to isolate part of that, Jordan. So we just got from the Milwaukee Bucks, Jordan Nwora sticking in the starting lineup. Holiday, Nwora, Middleton, Giannis, Portis, Grayson Allen is out for the Bucks. We also have Brook Lopez out. Jordan Nwora starting. Does that do anything for you?
No.
Okay. And then we have
We'll
some
see.
other.
He's 3K. I mean, maybe.
I mean, I'm going to play some of Jordan Nwora. The other thing, too, is going up against Orlando, if the game's a blowout, I think he's live to get garbage run. He's not. But I was saying before, I didn't think there was any.
He looked good on Saturday. Did you watch that game at all?
No. I was watching
them in Charlotte. It was like I don't know. I thought it was a pretty intriguing game, and pretty intriguing. I always like watching Milwaukee when they just literally rest everybody all at once. Like whenever they get these opportunities, happened a lot last year, but no Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Jordan Nwora was like legitimately fantastic in that game.
Yeah, I think he's a worthwhile play today, especially because I do think there's a chance if the game's a blowout that he plays garbage time as well.
Agreed.
That actually might even be the best thing for his upside today, is if it's a blowout and he plays garbage time.
Yeah, it's probably not playing next to Giannis, Drew Holiday, and Chris Middleton if you're talking about fantasy upside.
No, but I mean, him just being on the court and being that cheap, I think is at least titillating. At least makes him worth considering. We got some super chats that have come in. This one from Corey Shea. Do we still like Clark with Adams and best power forward under 6K? Do we still like Clark with Adams? So I'm not really playing very much of Steven Adams today. I think he's a viable play, but I think he's a little bit underpriced today, where there's other guys that are just much better plays from Memphis. So Steven Adams, of the guys that are starting for Memphis, is my least favorite.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried that we see kind of what they did. Was it against Minnesota in the playoffs last year? I think that's who it was, where they went small immediately. Look at Miami, like Bam Adebayo. I don't think you're going to want to have Steven Adams out there for 34, 36 minutes. We saw him play 34 against Philly. That made sense. Joel Embiid out on the floor, but you go through some of these like less traditional bigs. He kind of gets capped around 30 minutes in a lot of those matchups. And I know that there's no Jaren Jackson Jr. there. Maybe that negates it a little bit, but they've gone to Brandon Clark, and they've gone to Brandon Clark pretty heavily in spots like this. I think he ends up playing a lot. And I mean, I already have a ton of him and Santi Aldama, like you would expect. Xavier Tillman probably gets into this rotation. I know we have him projected right around 20 minutes as well. we've got projected Steven Adams right around 27.5 minutes, and I completely agree with it. I am less bullish on his minutes in this spot with the absence of Ja Morant, the absence of some of these other pieces that Jaren Jackson Jr. as well. I think they could go small on Miami, and then you're just, I don't know. You don't really need Steven Adams out on the floor. It's like an offense for defense kind of thing. So I'm feeling pretty confident in under projecting Adams. I'm right around the field. He's at what, 12.3%. I have 10% of him, and I'm just fine with that today.
We got another super chat from Red John. Who do we like at center besides Embiid? So my other most rostered centers are Pascal Siakam is center eligibility, Brandon Clark, and Giannis.
Say that again.
He wanted to know who our other centers are that we like other than Joel Embiid.
Yeah, Embiid, Giannis. You want some upside options. Pascal Siakam, who's just been awesome. I think that he's another guy to kind of rival for some of that upside. We've seen some crazy stock games and ridiculous stuff. Scotty Barnes and OG Anunoby from Toronto, but it is Pascal Siakam. Even in 31 minutes, the guy's putting up ridiculous fantasy point outcomes. You get up to 32 or 34 in a competitive game. He only played 31 against Orlando 2 nights ago. I mean, if we can see those minutes start to get back up into that 34, 36 range, you really, really are hitting the nuts playing a guy like Pascal Siakam overweight to the field. So that's the other guy that I'm getting to a lot of spend up options at the position.
And a lot of value. So it's not hard to get up to those spend up options in general. And where we have the most value, guards, the backcourt. So center forward just makes sense to spend up there. Not that there aren't good value plays at center like Aldama and Clark, but I do prefer the guard value. And it's just been really easy for me when I was building out lineups to spend up at some of those center positions. By the way, guys, if you haven't done yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also shout out to No House Advantage, who is sponsoring our show today. If you guys have not signed up in No House Advantage, take advantage of the $50 bonus deposit, but also take advantage of all the overlay over at No House Advantage. Contests regularly filling halfway, a third of the way. It's the easiest way that you can make money playing DFS, taking advantage of number one, deposit bonus, but then number two, taking advantage of overlay scenarios. But also, if you're in a state that does not have legal sports betting, there's a good chance you could play props over at No House Advantage. They now have props you can play against the house. So check out NHA, and when you sign up, click on our link so you get that $50 bonus on your first deposit. The Discord, we got some questions coming in from there. First from Jordan Loist. DK Cash, Embiid and Giannis, or Luka and Tatum? I prefer Embiid and Giannis.
Embiid and Giannis.
Dude, I hate this Discord update. It makes it so hard to see my messages.
I'm sorry, baby.
I just want to help the people. I want to give them good DFS advice, and Slack Discord's like, no, we're not going to do that. Stephen Leibowitz, as things stand now, if McConnell does not play, I already have Nembhard. Would you go Nesmith or DiVincenzo? Christian Wood available to play, by the way. I prefer Nesmith to DiVincenzo if McConnell is ruled out.
Yeah, I can't do the DiVincenzo. I said it. Nembhard is Nesmith is a very, very big last resort. He was my last resort yesterday. It went a lot better than I could have anticipated in that spot. I mean, just getting even 21 out of him. I had to leave a lot of salary on the table. So I guess in the hindsight, it didn't work out all that well because the opportunity cost of a $4,300 to a $3,600 player wasn't so good. But still, that's the preference between him and DiVincenzo. It's not close.
The next super chat that we have in here is from JEW. Our guy Jay wants to know, for a DK GPP, who are your favorite? Okay, so I understand the question. A little confusing at first. He wants to know who our favorite cash plays are to get away from in GPPs. Nembhard, McConnell, Tyus, Brooks, Aldama, Clark. I honestly can't recommend you get away from any of those guys because I'm playing a lot of them today.
Yeah, if you had to, though, like let's say out of the top 4 pieces of Memphis, the guy that I would pick is actually Dylan Brooks because he's not near the floor.
Let me think. So of all these guys, I'm just running my lineups one more time to get a little bit of Jordan Nwora. And let's see, which one do I have the least of those players? Of Nembhard, McConnell, Tyus.
I don't have that much Jordan Nwora, by the way. I have 12%.
No, I don't have a lot of them either, but I had none before. And now
there you go.
Lineups.
From zero to hero.
Of those guys, I would say Clark just because such weird things happen with his minutes from time to time when it comes to Brandon Clark. The most likely scenario today, I still think, is that he probably has a good game, but he is the player I have the least amount of exposure to amongst those guys.
Yeah.
But still, play Brandon Clark. I'm just working with the options I have here.
Yeah, Dylan Brooks is the guy that I have the least of for them, but I still have north of 60%, 65%. There we go. I have lots and lots of them.
Yes, as do I. The next question we have in here is from Cream. Do you have Jordan Poole playing? As of now, I have him. Yeah, I have him in there, but I don't have like a lean on whether he's going to be in or whether he's out. And I don't think that's going to have massive implications on my lineups, whether Jordan Poole plays or not.
Nope, neither will it for me.
The next question is from Jets World, and this actually goes back to the question you had about what we were talking about with Steven Adams. So I do think we kind of hit on this, but he wants to know if we think that Steven Adams plays his normal minutes today or a lot less playing time against Bam today. I mean, I think it's reasonable to expect he plays about his normal minutes, but this isn't a guy who normally plays 36 minutes or anything.
Nope.
How are you doing on your lineups, by the way?
I'm good.
Okay, cool. And Stephen Leibowitz then wants to know, also kind of related to what I was just saying a second ago, what do you think of Brandon Clark's minutes? He's only played 17 minutes with Steven Adams this season. It's a little bit of concern for me. That's the reason why I said that of those players that we got in that other question before, Clark is the one that I would feel best about fading, and even feel good would be pretty scary because I think there's immense upside in Brandon Clark. But I do think there is bust potential where he plays like 22 minutes today.
Yeah, and the other thing too is there's a guy who I am also worried about, Jalen Johnson, but they're identical tags. And if you want to find a way to cut ownership, take Brandon Clark, who's 32, 33% owned, to go to Jalen Johnson, who was going to be more popular before the Memphis stuff showed up. We've got him around 13%. I mean, they're projecting out pretty similarly to me, not identically, but like that reduction in ownership, I think is more than worth it to try to take shots on Jalen Johnson.
Couple super chats, one from our guy Jorge. Would you guys recommend anybody from trashy Orlando?
That's a good way to describe it.
There's nobody that I really have a significant amount of exposure to. If you had to play one guy, I would say Markelle Fultz, but I don't think you have to play anybody from Orlando. I did bet Markelle Fultz over 4.5 assists today for anybody who cares about that information. But I don't really think there's a need to get to Orlando, guys. Number one, there's much better value elsewhere on the slate. But then the other part of it also is I'd rather just have the flexibility to be able to react to whatever happens with, TJ McConnell later in the day.
Yeah, it's just unnecessary. Like, you could get massive ceiling game out of Apollo Banchero, but 55, is that even going to rival what is possible from other higher upside options? 50, 55 from Paulo Banchero? I don't think so. Like, for me, it's really stars and scrubs, get the raw points in, play 100% Tyus Jones, TJ McConnell, live your life.
The other thing that's pretty hard about the Magic, the Magic situation is they've got so many guys in the backcourt that have come back now as well. It's not like we had those scenarios where the Magic were so shorthanded. It's not the case anymore. They're a little bit thinner in the front court, but even with that said, they found ways to give minutes to all kinds of guys. So I don't think we need to really consider anybody from the Orlando Magic too seriously. Corey Jefferson wants to know thoughts on Eaton versus Dallas and Drew or Terry for FanDuel. All right. So first, thoughts on Ayton versus Dallas. I think there's better center plays today.
I still don't completely hate it. There's so many good center plays when you think about it, just because we're only looking for guys who can nuke it at the top. And there's a number of Embiid, Giannis you can play at the center position. You have Bam, talked about him being a Memphis guy you can go along for the ride. Pascal Siakam. Ayton would have to almost beat all of them for me. That's kind of the tough ask. Does he have that kind of a ceiling? Sure, but that for me is kind of the exercise where, think about it just from a raw points perspective. I have Ayton projected for 4.5 fewer fantasy points than Bam Adebayo. I have him 13.5 behind Pascal Siakam. It's not even remotely close to Giannis and Joel Embiid. So, like, even if you're getting that ceiling, is it worth it? I don't think so.
There's an opportunity cost there, which is basically what you're saying. Just I'm putting in slightly different words. I totally agree with you. there's so much value when we're looking at the guards. And if you're playing him at center, does it mean that you're not getting a value piece in one of the backcourt spots? So to me, I don't really love Ayton as a play today just for that reason. There's so many guys I like at center. And then I also think that it's a spot where it's better utilized to be spent up for, considering the value in the backcourt. And then the other part of his question was Drew Holiday or Terry Rozier. Between those guys on FanDuel, I would say Rozier, just because we've got the Bucks now. There's Holiday active, Middleton's back in the picture. We've got Giannis there. So with that in mind, a little bit of a lean towards Terry Rozier, but I don't love either of them today.
Yep.
Did we get all of the super chats? Oh, one more that just came in. Oh, no, never mind. Two more that just came in. First from Joseph C. There's a bunch of F's in there. That was why I said it that way. I wasn't stuttering. Just how his name is. Joseph.
Stuttering Stanley. Stuttering Stan. No.
Lay it again. As if I know when it is he usually as if I know when it is that he usually tunes in. Thank you for coming. Better late than never, Joseph. Make sure you do like and subscribe. Top 5 FanDuel cash plays. So for FanDuel, let me go back and
Anthropology, Candle Store, Yankee,
Brooks, McConnell, Tyus Jones, Andrew Nemhard, and Aldama.
Sounded good to me.
Okay. We're on the same page then. Next one is from There Is No Competition, Dylan Brooks and Hero or Tyus Jones and Jaylen Brown. I'm going to say Tyus Jones and Jaylen Brown.
Agreed.
Oh, Jaylen Brown is somebody who is in like 15 or 20% of my lineups right now, somewhere around there. Let me pull up.
He's the cheaper version. I mean, think of how many times we've had him, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, close to each other on a slate. They're not remotely close to each other in terms of salary on this slate right now. So I'm with you. I'm getting to about 12% Jaylen Brown. I'm getting to 5% Jason Tatum. He's probably my scary. I hope he doesn't completely nuke this slate or I'm in trouble fade.
He's so Jaylen Brown, number one, he's been underpriced almost the entire year. Like, Jaylen Brown's always been a little bit too cheap. I also think it benefits him a little bit that Malcolm Brogdon is out. In addition, Al Horford is out today. There's extra rebounding opportunities. There's some extra minutes to be played there. So I do think it's a little bit of a boost that goes to those guys like Tatum, Jaylen Brown. But Tatum's so expensive at this point. There's other pay up options I prefer. Jaylen Brown, I think, is a good option, like the secondary pay up tier.
Totally.
All right. Another super chat that just came in. This one is from John Good. He wants to know Giannis and Embiid versus Doncic and Tatum. I feel like somebody else asked this exact same question. Maybe I just had a stroke or both. Who knows? Giannis and Embiid, though.
Yeah. Giannis and Embiid. There you go. Love hearing that on the show. That's great.
Did somebody else ask that exact same question, though?
No.
Let me pull through. I'm almost
maybe they did. I don't think so. Maybe they did.
All right.
Sure, chat will let us know.
Discord, we got a question right here. We'll try to bang out as many of these as we can in the last 2 minutes of the show. Guys, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like the video if you haven't done that already, and we'll just bang out some of these questions really quick. How much Noor on DK do I have? About 10%. How about for you, Eric?
I have 12%.
Steve G, Clark, or Aldama. I prefer Aldama. How about yourself?
Aldama.
The next question. Oh, actually, those were the two that were in there, so we answered them. Let me see. Did somebody?
Go us.
Oh, here. Mr. Moneybags. Last guy in must be one of these guys, Kuminga or Roddy. That is Roddy.
Yes, Roddy. I like Roddy more than I think you do.
Mr. Sledge to you, Mathurin or Draymond?
I think Mathurin's an awesome tournament play today because he just played like shit yesterday and everybody's going to play healed. And Benedict Mathurin can play basketball better than he did yesterday.
Yeah, let me see where I agree with you. I'm going to say Mathurin as well. I have him projected a little bit higher. Also, if McConnell doesn't play, somebody else who could really benefit and pick up extra minutes. So, yep, TJ McConnell. If TJ McConnell potentially sits something else that would stand out. Jets World, Tatum and Hield or Brown and Rozier on DK. I prefer Brown and Rozier.
Brown and Rozier.
And that is going to do it for us today. Unless, oh, no, never mind. Super chat. Did we get a super chat? Yeah, here we go. JC Swag. Gonna buy a jet ski with all my winnings tonight. Good luck. Enjoy the jet ski. I hope you're near a body of water, else that would be weird. Eric Traub. When did we ditch this NFL crap and get you guys for an extra 30 minutes? I like where your head's at, but also I like to enjoy my night sometimes. So when do we ditch this NFL crap? When the NFL season ends. Unfortunately, for reasons that are beyond me, football tends to be quite popular.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I heard that. They probably deserve some time. It's always good.
All right. So that is going to do it for us today, guys. But that NFL show, it's going to be on right next. So if you guys do want to watch the NFL show instead of us, good news. It's about to come on. If you guys didn't do it one more time, please like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck. See you guys back here tomorrow.
Congrats, Greg's brother. Let's go.
Yes. Love you, Josh.